Welcome to the Plymouth Town Meeting. I'm your moderator. My name is Ladd Rain, and we are going to get started. There are still people checking in. I've touched base with them. They're still be permitted entry and be able to vote. We have some items to get through before voting commences and discussion commences through the evening. Great. We're going to start tonight's meeting with a Pledge of Allegiance led by our previous moderator, Bob Clay. All right, I am going to welcome up our illustrious Town Manager, Scott, to give the Town Manager's report.
Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to see such a strong turnout tonight. As Town Manager, my job is to ensure that the vision you vote on here tonight is executed with efficiency and transparency throughout the year. 2025 was a significant year in movement in Plymouth. We focused on stabilizing the long-term infrastructure and financial transparency. And I'm proud to say the town is in very stable professional position. In your town report this year, you'll see the metrics of our progress, but you won't see on those pages the sheer heart of our town employees that put their work in every day. Their dedication is the reason Plymouth remains the hub of the Pemi Valley. We have various boards full of volunteers who steadily work on a variety of projects. We have the Planning Board, the Zoning Board of Adjustment, the Energy Commission, Conservation Commission, Cemetery Trustees, Recreation Commission, Peace Public Library Trustees, Trustees of the Trust Fund, and the Beautification Committee, who diligently strive to serve the community and complete successful projects. Thank you to all the volunteers on those committees. The Select Board, department heads, and myself are here to serve as a resource for you. If you have questions about physical impact or operation logistics of the warrant articles, the Select Board and I, along with our department heads, are here to provide the facts. Thank you for your partnership in making this town work. As many of you know, this will be my last town meeting as your manager. Reflecting on my time here, I've realized the municipal leadership requires a strange, beautiful balance. To serve Plymouth well, I've had to be tender enough to hear your concerns, yet fierce enough to protect the town's interest, fragile enough to admit when a plan didn't work, yet courageous enough to stand at the podium and try again. It's been my honor to navigate these paradoxes with you. Thank you.
Well, you all stole my thunder a little bit, because the only thing I wanted to say this evening was, before we got into tonight's business, I did want to take a moment to recognize our town manager, Scott Whedon, who has led the town for the past 3 years. He's showed up for tough budgets, tough staffing challenges, hard conversations. He has been an amazing partner for the Select Board to work with these past 3 years. Under his management, we've moved forward with the huge Highland Street downtown project, this public safety business, building business that comes up for its next phase this evening, taking on improving relationships with the campus, establishing pilot agreements with many of the nonprofits in our community. But really what I want to recognize the most is the work that doesn't make the headlines. Scott has put structure in our town departments and policies and procedure that is going to serve Plymouth long after he's gone. It's the kind of thing you do when you care more about the town than your particular position or your role here. And that's the leader that I've seen from Scott selfless and caring, and I'm going to miss you. One last item. David Kent, have you managed to get in and checked in? Mr. Kent?
About a month ago, I got word that my friend Tom McLaughlin here was going to step down from the Zoning Board of Adjustment, and so they tapped me to see if maybe I would present him with a plaque. Whoa. Now, wait a minute here. It's been, you people don't realize, I met Tom 55 years ago, and since then, at that time, I recognized Tom always had a strong sense of community. Loved the town, loved the people, and loved to give. He's been on the planning board. He's been on the zoning board. He's been on the water and sewer commission. He has always given to the town. It's fun to sit on a board with Tom. You get the straight, unvarnished truth about whatever the issue is that's being discussed. He's an honest guy who goes an extra mile for this town. I think it's time for him to get what's the best of all, a standing O for a guy that served. Surely, take this.
Look at that. Look at that. It's beautiful. Thanks, Tom. Thank you. Well, I could tell you about the zoning board a little bit. I've been on there like about 40 years, it seems. And it's a great board. It's a great group of people. And normally it's a lot of fun. I mean, it's really interesting to hear the folks and come in with their applications. You know everybody. I mean, you know, most of the engineers and the lawyers you get to know. But outside of that, it's all friends and neighbors that you listen to them. And most of the time, it just goes nice and smooth, and it's very routine. Sometimes, though, you have to be able to say no. And that's the tough part, is when you have to look at your friends and neighbors right in the eye, and you got to say, no, I won't support that. So that's the story of being on the zoning board. I mean, it's been a fun time, and I have no regrets. Thank you very much, folks.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much. I have the results of last night's election posted for you outside of the hall if you want, but I also am going to share the elected officials. This is not the bright part of the night, but we are here to share. For select board members, we had Mary Ann Barnsley and Zachary Terrell both receive re-election votes. For town treasurer, we had Carol Garrity win her uncontested vote. For supervisor of the checklist, Mary Nelson. For trustees of the trust fund, Michael Currier. For library trustee, James Corrin and Joyce Weston. For cemetery trustee, Douglas McLean. Planning board member 3-year term, John Christ and Thomas Newcomb. For planning board member 2-year term, Molly McCann, Neil McIver. Planning board member 1-year term, William Bolton. We also had 4 zoning amendments on last night's ballot. Zoning Amendment 1 passed with 539 votes. Zoning Amendment 2 passed with 440 votes. Zoning Amendment 3 passed with 530 votes. And Zoning Amendment 4 passed with 496 votes. And now we are on to our first article of the evening, which is the land purchase for public safety complex. I will read the article, and then individuals will be permitted to come up and discuss. If you would like to be recognized, please approach the microphone. I'll recognize you one at a time, and select board members or department chiefs will be able to respond to your question. Article 6, land purchase for public safety complex. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $900,000 for the purchase of purchasing land for a new public safety complex. To authorize the issuance of $900,000 of bonds or notes and under and in compliance with the provisions of the Municipal Finance Act, RSA 33, to authorize the Select Board to issue, negotiate, sell, and deliver such bonds or notes as to determine the rate of interest thereon and the maturity of such other terms thereof, to authorize the Select Board to apply for, accept, and expand federal, state, or other aid, if any, which may be available for said project, and to comply with all the laws applicable to said project, and to authorize the Select Board to take any other action or pass any other vote relative thereto. Further, to see if the town will raise and appropriate $205,012 in the 2026-2027 fiscal year for the purchase of funding in the initial debt service payment. In order for this measure to pass, there will need to be a 3/5 ballot vote majority. You will see on the far side of the room, when we come up for vote, there is a ballot box. You each have been given pieces of paper. Article 6 will be with the white piece of paper. If you wish to vote in the negative, rip off the no section and put the no in the box. If you wish to vote in the affirmative, rip off the yes section and put the yes in the box. This ballot, after voting opens, will be open for 1 hour. After 1 hour, we will close. During that hour period, we will hear further articles in the interest of everybody's time, so we are not all sitting here for an hour twiddling our thumbs. Would anybody like to be recognized for discussion on Article 6?
Point of order, I think it needs to be moved.
Yes, thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Would anybody like to be recognized for discussion on Article 6?
Hi, my name is Annie Schneider, and I just have a suggestion about, we've been talking about raising the money for this for years. This is not new. This is a concern I have. I understand that that's going to happen eventually, whatever. So what I am concerned about is on the far side of this. This is obviously to have a municipal center for our police and fire. Am I right? Yeah. What I'd love to know is, or what I'd love to have as perhaps an amendment or an agreement, I don't know how you do this legally, that the current buildings, the fire building and the police building, go back on our tax rolls. So when they're sold, they do not get to be non-taxable property. That's my suggestion.
If anybody else would like to be recognized, please approach the microphone.
John Dockery. Adding to what was just stated, what is the current assessed values for these properties? Which should have been in the town report, by the way, but
The current
enough.
assessed value of both properties, 295 and 299, is $758,100.
And what is this building going to cost after the land purchase and the building is built on it?
We have not gone that far yet because we haven't started the engineering until we get the property.
Okay.
Frank Miller. I would like to speak to
Sorry, real quick, please state your name.
Frank Miller. I would like to speak to the people of town of Plymouth. I have been on this committee for 40 years.
Please stand
I
closer to the
helped move-
microphone, sir.
I helped move the police department from the basement of the town hall to its present location. That was a major step. We use in an existing commercial building that was designed for police department work, but they had to make do with what we had. Right now, our fire building and our police building are out of date, out of code, and incomplete. Our insurance policies reflect that, because when the insurance agencies evaluate your house or the town's public safety capability, those are the three things they're looking for. Is it up to date, up to code, and complete? Neither building was designed for what it's operating at. The fire trucks are currently are in a firehouse right now are more than double the weight and size of what that building was designed for. I think time to move forward. This represents the most cost-effective, most reasonable location that would enhance our response of our public safety, building equipment, and personnel. And I would like the people, the town, to look at it as though they're investing on reduced insurance rates, because part of your policy of your home is based on having up-to-date, up-to-code, and complete public safety infrastructure. Thank you.
William Bond. I had a question. Previously, we've discussed the site in a budget meeting, and I was wondering if the select board could repeat for the town their estimation of the general range of price for the building that this property was selected to be able to support. In other words, from what I understand, you went and found comparable buildings that would fit our needs, just so we have an idea of, we're talking about purchasing land, but this isn't a building. But if we're going to purchase land for a rough size of building, we should have an idea of what that building is as a town, just so we're going in with our eyes open.
It's a great question. And we have had the engineering firm look at this piece of property. I'm sorry. The engineering firm looked at the piece of property probably 3 or 4 years ago when Chief Morrison was the head of the department. We also had a local contractor look at the property, test the soil, and make sure it was going to be able to withhold a building. What we're looking at is somewhere around 25,000 square feet. We know that from the engineering firm, Turner Group, is that it will accommodate that size building.
But from a price perspective, my understanding is you looked at a couple of municipalities who built similar sized buildings within the recent past, and what was the price range for those buildings?
I'm going to give you the estimates that we've gotten.
Yeah,
and it ranges between $459 per square feet and $550 per square feet. The building probably is going to be somewhere around $25 to $28 million.
Okay, thank you.
My name is Jenny Tebow, and as the daughter-in-law of a former fire chief who also wanted one many years ago, I am very excited that we have such a great program idea. What I'm actually here to do is to introduce a non-voting member who would like to say something.
Hi, my name is Piper Nino. Today I want to talk about why we should purchase the land for the firefighters. The first reason is because their current station has cracks, leaks, and mice. My second reason is the firefighters deserve to have a newer and better station. And my last reason is the firefighters are brave because they fight fires and keep us safe. If this is why I think the firefighters should have a new station. Thank you.
My name is Scott Gray. I just want to say, when we vote tonight, there's a couple things I want everybody to keep in mind. Now, I would love to give the firemen and the police more than what they need, but think back how long ago were your taxes, your property taxes, half of what they are now. In other words, have they doubled in the last 8 or 10 years? My property taxes are double now from what they were in 2010. So what happens when they double again? If you're paying $10,000 now, are you going to be paying $20,000 in another 10 or 15 years? What if that doubling time shortens? Because we've gone off the gold standard. The value of the United States dollar is collapsing. That's why everything costs more money. They took us off the gold standard in '71. That's why everything costs so much money. We don't know what's going on with this Iran war. What if this thing persists and gas goes up to, $10, $20 a gallon, okay? So think about it, It's not that I would love to give these beautiful human beings that protect us and all that, I'd love to give them better than what they want. But if I'm going to lose my house over it, I've already lost one house on Fairgrounds Road because of the taxes here in Plymouth. Everybody knows they're high. Okay, and if you can't pay those taxes, the town will take your house. They'll create a tax deed out of thin air, and they'll steal your house, and they'll put it at public auction. You're going to be at the mercy of the highest bidder, okay? And, they're going to tell you that they can only sell your house for what you owe in the back taxes, which violates your Fifth Amendment, because no property can be taken for public use without just compensation. So they have to pay you what your house is worth. You don't even get due process. You don't get a day in court. They just create a tax deed out of thin air like they did with me. They're going to take your property. They're going to sell it at public auction. They're going to leave signs out. Weeks after the sale, they left signs out on Fairgrounds Road just to further humiliate you and to make an example out of you, okay? So if you lose your job, AI is going to take a lot of jobs. If your spouse dies, you run into bad health, and you can't pay those taxes because, they may double in another 10 years, all right? So anyway, I just wanted everybody to keep that in mind, okay? How many people here have ever read their state constitution? It's in Article 2. Here in New Hampshire, we have a natural, essential, inherent right to property. An inherent right is the same as an unalienable right. They can't take it away. So how does the state constitution say that you have an unalienable right to property, and then they go and put a tax lien on it? They're not even supposed to be taxing rights. We have U.S. Supreme Court cases that have been adjudicated that you can't tax rights, okay? So anyway, these are things that I just wanted to mention. We have way too much government, okay? Look at the national debt. We're 38 trillion national debt, and if you divide the last U.S. census into 38 trillion, that's your share. In other words, you've already lost your house already. You're just not aware of it. So if they come to take your house.
Sir, back to Article 6, please.
Too close to the microphone?
Back to Article 6.
What's that?
Back to Article 6.
Article 6?
Yes, please.
Well, I'm just saying, if we spend $30 million, it's gonna make all our taxes go up, and then like this, if we get too many people in here with all these other overlays they want, then we're gonna have to have a bigger septic system, a treatment plant, and everything else. So I just see the taxes in this town getting way out of hand. I'm gonna have to leave Plymouth. I can't afford to stay here. The taxes are gonna double. I would love to build them, what they need, but what good is it when you're going to lose your house over it? The cops will show up, and if you don't leave, they'll shoot all your animals and put you in cuffs and haul you away.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to be recognized?
Matt, can I speak quickly to one point?
How's this? My name is Chris Warren. I've lived in this town for a while now. Some of you I recognize. I just wanted to bring it a little bit up from where we were just now. I was a police officer in Plymouth in the 1980s, and I'm actually kind of responsible, sorry, Chief, for you guys being in the old Easter Seals building. I believe, and Scott was in Holderness, I believe at the time we were looking for a better place to grow into, and the basement of the town hall was way too small. We had been looking, there was no place to go. Easter Seals was moving out, and there was this building there. We talked it over with the group. I know Frank was involved in that conversation, and it was determined by the town at the time that we should move in there. It would be just fine for, and I quote, 3 or 4 years. I believe this was in 1989. You have an excellent police and fire department. I remember we used to get dispatched out of the fire station. There was worry back there by her father-in-law, Buddy, that we're going to lose a truck through the floor in 1989. It's time. Thank you.
Paulette Ryan. I will make my point quick. I'm in favor of the building. However, there is a point in here that says current police and fire station properties return to the tax roll. Can the board certify or guarantee or promise to us that these two entities will be returned to private, non-tax exempt status? Because it would be a shame if more properties went to non-tax exempt, or to tax exempt status. So I'm just looking for a guarantee. I think that that is really important, that it goes to someone, because our grand list needs to grow. We continue to decrease. So that would be my comment.
I can say with confidence that the conversations we've had as a board and as a town, that is 100% our intention. There are some things we don't control. If we sell it to somebody and then they turn around and sell it again, that comes outside of our control. Is once those properties pass to another, property owner in town, there's no way for us to permanently say these can never be owned by a non-tax exempt entity. But certainly our intention would be to find a buyer who was going to develop those properties and build something that was going to last in those spaces, either reusing the structures that are there or replacing them with something else. And as long as this board is in place, I feel very confident that that is what is going to happen. Now, what could the citizens do to further cement that? There is this thing that is called the sense of the meeting. It is a non-binding but highly influential decision that a community and a town meeting can make. So at some point between other items that are on the floor, if someone was to make some sort of motion to get the sense of the meeting for what we would like done with that piece of property, or to insist that a certain thing is done with that piece of property, that would be influential beyond just the residency of this board and would give guidance to future boards.
Thank you.
Kat Labrie. It's my understanding that with the Plymouth State University police being disbanded, that the town is now in charge of managing those calls completely. So I'm just curious if there's an increase that the university is going to be paying towards our police and fire, or if there's any information on that.
Sure, I can give you that information. So in year one, which we've signed a memorandum of understanding for the policing agreement with the university police, in year one, they will fund two and a half police officers for the total amount of $292,264.14, which covers all labor costs associated with those police officers. Additionally, they've agreed to pay $9,500 in uniform reimbursement. They've agreed to pay $30,000 a year, both years, 1 and 2, for the cost of tasers and body cameras. They further agreed and have already done the moving of cubicles to outfit 2 additional officers at Plymouth PD for the fee of $6,500. And they've turned over all their body cameras, tasers, and firearms at no cost to the town of Plymouth.
Great, thank you.
One other item on that is that as a board, we submitted a letter to our local representatives this week asking them to sponsor legislation obligating any university that does away with their local police force to pay their fair share going forward. No guarantees on that, but we're doing what we can as a board to not only negotiate now while the university is being very agreeable, but also to try to protect the town once things could change.
Thank you.
William Bond, once more. Just a point of information for everyone. I did some basic napkin math on a building of around $25 million and, say, a 20-year loan. I think that it's well-intentioned that we're concerned about the properties going back on the tax roll, but we are talking about in the range of $2 million a year in mortgage payments or loan payments for a public safety building. So if we are talking about $20,000 in taxes coming back to the town, it is sort of a rounding error as to our interest rate or our loan terms. So the big picture, very, very large number, 2 properties going back on the tax roll, much, much smaller number. So just keep that in mind.
Good evening, I'm Jack Olmsted. I've been a member of the Plymouth Fire Department since 1986. My family's been in this community for going back to the 30s. As a matter of fact, my grandparents' house is the main part of the fire station now. In 1969, that building was built as a 5-year temporary building. There were other plans at the time to build a fire station that would have been satisfactory for us. At that time, the townspeople voted to establish a committee to look at it, and in 5 years we would revisit this. We did, so I'm told. I'm not that old. And through my career, we've had numerous studies, study after study after study, saying we need a new fire station, a new police station, and we keep kicking it down the road, and it just keeps getting more and more expensive. As somebody else said tonight, we're gonna have to do this. How long are we gonna keep pushing it down the road, and how much more expensive is it gonna get? We've gotta bite the bullet at some point and just do it.
Hey, guys. I grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Sir, please state your name.
Oh, Woodward H. Garber. I grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio, which was a failed city from the 80s. That we started failing in 1880. So when I arrived, it failed Midwestern city. Now, I was a firefighter in that city for 5 years. And let me tell you, our firefighter stations reflected the poor state of our city. We had firefighter stations that had been built for horses. When you slid down the pole, you went through clouds because that's where they stored the harnesses. So from where we slept to it was like a 2-story building. They were old buildings. We had rats in the basement. As the city got richer, slowly our stations and equipment improved. But the trucks we drove, we had to put plywood in the back that were so rusted out to keep our gear in, where we threw our EMT stuff. We had to put a piece of plywood back there so it wouldn't fall through. They were so rusted. We put 100,000 miles on those trucks in a year, 5 miles at a time. And they were junk. When we had to put those in the shop, we got LaFrance trucks with straight gears to drive. So we live in a poor town. That's a fact. And I see so many towns. I drive around this country and we see shiny fast food restaurants, bright shiny lights, beautiful parking lots. Drive off the main road and go back into where everybody lives, no sidewalks. People drinking water through lead pipes that haven't been replaced. Sidewalks are missing, streets have holes in them. Where are our priorities? I'm not saying we don't need a new building. We just can't afford it. If we have to make a choice between buildings and people, I say people. Because even though we had shitty equipment, shitty stations, Cincinnati Fire Department was the best in the nation. We were leaders in the fast attack, interior attack. We put out buildings, we went right into burning buildings. We were the best. We covered more area with less people, with less fatalities, than almost virtually any other big municipal city. It was the people. Personally, I think that's where you should put your money.
We have a motion to call the question. Thank you. In order to call it to question, it requires a simple majority. We will vote a simple majority by stating yay or nay. All right. All those in favor of calling the question? Yay. All those opposed? Yay. Okay. We are going to call the question, which means we will now vote on this Article 6 by secret ballot. Again, we are using the white pieces of paper. If you wish to vote in the negative, rip your white piece of paper with the no, put the no in the box. The box will be locked for 1 hour, and we will review the results after that hour-long period. I'm going to lock the box. Please make a line. We will vote. Thank you all. To review, Article 6 will be open for secret ballot voting for a period of 1 hour. At the end of that hour, we will count those votes and be able to tell you what that decision is. Bob Clay is playing the role of assistant moderator, keeping that box safe for the time being. If you have not yet voted with your white slip of paper and desire to do so, you're welcome to any time between now and 8:40. Moving on to Article 7. Petition warrant article, tax levy growth cap. To see if the town will vote to adopt a tax levy growth limit pursuant to RSA 32:5/B, capping annual levy increases at the lower of inflation CPI or 4% unless overridden by voter approval. Because this is a petition warrant article, I am supposed to call the primary petitioner if they would like to come up and speak to this petition. If the primary petitioner would not like to come up, I will have a member of the select board speak to this warrant article.
Before you move and second this article, this is a slightly unique situation. So the way the law works is if a petitioned warrant article is submitted by the community, it must go on the warrant. There's no option to adjust it. There's no option to change it. Once it's submitted, it must go on the warrant. However, when this warrant article was submitted, our legal counsel advised us that it was written in such a way that it was not enforceable by the RSA as written. So we reached back out to the petitioners, and they submitted a second petitioned warrant article that we will discuss as Article 8. Article 7 is effectively a meaningless article, and so we can take it as such as a community, the situation with these articles.
There's a motion on the floor to pass over warrant article 7. It's been seconded.
Patrice Scott, I think a cleaner way to do this would be to make a motion to strike this article from the floor as petitioners have withdrawn it or replaced it by another article. I wouldn't like it just hanging around.
Okay, motion to strike recognized. Is there a second? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion struck. Article struck. All right. Moving on, Article 8. This article will again be by secret ballot. There will be a different box, which Bob is going to hold over his head so y'all can see it. It has a label on it that says Article 8. To vote on this one, we're going to use a purple piece of paper. If you want to vote in the affirmative, use the yes that's purple.
This one, lavender.
If anybody has any questions after the test, you can come up and test your purple against my purple. This is fun.
Okay, he should read the
Middle of the deck. Deep purple, the dark purple, the purpley purple. That's what we're going with. All right, Article 8. It's petition warrant article tax cap levy to see if the town shall adopt the provisions of RSA 32:5/B and implement a tax cap whereby the governing body or budget committee shall not submit a recommended budget that increases the amount to be raised by local taxes based on the prior fiscal year's actual amount of local taxes raised by more than 3%. Again, in order for this to pass, it has to be a 3/5 majority. We will vote after hearing from the floor and after it is moved to be voted on. Is there a motion? Are there any comments from the floor?
Seconded.
Okay. Great. Any comments from the floor?
Mr. Moderator. Mr. Moderator, Patrice Scott, I would just appeal to any of the petitioners that are here to kindly speak up and tell us what this, what your intention was in submitting this warrant article. Okay. Hi.
Hello, William Bond. I am not the petitioner or the originator of the petition, but I do have a lot of background, and I did have interest in calling this issue so that we could discuss it as a town. To give a little bit of background to those who are perhaps newer to the town, not that I've been here that long, we have a unique situation where we have lots of non-taxable property in town. And we are also the hub for Grafton County of all sorts of nonprofit and medical services. As such, there's lots of demands on our infrastructure, fire, police, so forth. We have lots of expenses, but we don't get to raise a lot of taxes because we have a state university, we have a couple of medical complexes, and so forth. We have tried in the past, my understanding is our representatives have gone to the state to try to, through legislation, make it possible for us to actually collect the equivalent of property taxes from all of these non-taxable entities, to try to get them to, participate in supporting the town and all of our expenses. That, from my understanding, did not make it out of the committee. What happens when you go against nonprofits is they have lots of lobbyists who come out who want to protect their tax-exempt status, and it would be a large change in taxation in the whole state for this to happen. So this is not going to happen. There is no way for us to force any of these organizations to. Some willingly, through the pilot program, do participate in a small fraction to what their actual property taxes would be. But as a result, we have a very large budget for what we provide, but we don't have a large tax base to collect it from. So you probably noticed that all of our taxes continue to go up. Now, some of the pragmatic aspects of actually controlling, the way that our taxes don't go up is by us not spending money. That is the only controls we have as a town. The only way we can have our taxes not fluctuate wildly is to spend less money. The process to do the budget is a very involved process, which lots of time goes into in figuring out what our needs are, how to support everything. It's complicated. However, at the end of the day, there is a recommended budget that comes out, right? There is a recommended set of warrant articles that the select board publishes, and then we come and vote on them all. But you kind of have a sledgehammer from which you can say, look, these are all recommended, and Let's say we want not to raise our taxes by 20%, but instead we want to say we want our taxes only to go up by 10%. We don't really have a scalpel to figure out as a body of the residents of this town how to say, you know what, these are the top 9 out of 10 items, we want to vote these through, and then the last 10% no, because everybody has their own interests, right? So I think there's an interest here in saying we should have constrained growth in the budget in order to have control as a town so that we can petition to spend more than a certain percentage increase, but that the select board should not recommend a budget that is larger than a 3% increase. Now, I would clarify that the original warrant article that was submitted was intended to work differently, but it was considered to be not enforceable. So the intention was that we wanted to make it so that your taxes wouldn't all of a sudden jump up 30%. But the way that New Hampshire state taxes work, you can't actually constrain an individual's property taxes. The tax rate is all set by your budget and then by your assessed value, and then the state actually decides what your tax rate is. So the only control we have as a town is to control the budget. And so we have a choice. We can either go through and try to all align, if we all agree, let's say, that we want to spend only a 10% increase in our budget versus 20%, we can try to all align on, out of these 36 different articles, which are the lowest 10% that we care about, or we care the least about, and we're saying this is the amount of money we have, these are the ones that we care the most about, let's pass these, let's not pass these so that we don't spend a lot more money than we really have. That's our current approach. So we have to get everybody aligned. If we say we don't want to just keep spending, we have to get everybody aligned on these are the ones that are most important, these are the ones that are not. I mean, it's kind of like herding cats. I can't imagine that we're going to, as a community, all align on this. So the alternative is, the idea behind this is that we actually have a cap on how much we allow the select board to recommend an increase in the budget each year. That doesn't prevent us as a town from spending more than that, but what we're saying is the select board shouldn't recommend a budget that jumps by more than that per year. Now, there's a couple of interesting edge cases to this, which have been brought up in some of the select board meetings coming up to this, such as, right now, the way it is written, we can't increase the budget by more than 3% per year. But what if our actual taxable property base increases because of new development? We can only still increase our budget by 3% per year. It is not proportional to the growth of the taxable properties. So that is an interesting constraint. Now, I believe that it's been represented that some towns run into this being a constraint on growth because you can't keep spending more money even if your town is growing, so it kind of forces your town to stay at the size it is right now. I think that is a very reasonable assessment of it. However, I would also argue that we as the town can propose any additional items. You can actually come up here tonight and propose a new article, and if enough people agree with you, to say we want to spend $1 million on XYZ. If everybody agrees with you, we can do that. So this article would not prevent us as a town from deciding that something is valuable and that we want to do it. However, it would require that we organize as a town versus allowing the select board to do all of their research and their recommendation on the budget and then come to us with that recommendation. Now, I think in one way you could liken it to an opt-in versus an opt-out. Right now we opt in effectively as a town to what the select board recommends. In general, I bet you if you looked at our historical voting records, generally we vote through most of the items unless they're very contentious. This would change it so that the select board would only be able to recommend a certain amount of an increase, and then we'd have to opt in and say, actually, we want to spend more on a new fire department, but they couldn't recommend it in the recommended budget. So I realize that there's a lot of nuance here, but I wanted to give everyone a perspective on some of the different aspects that went into what is this, why is this here? It's here because this is, from what we can tell, the only knob by which the town, other than individually voting on warrant articles, can control the town budget. outside of this process. So anyway, there's a whole lot of information, and I hope it's helpful.
John Tucker. I actually like the wording of the previous article better, but could we amend Article 8 and just add, unless overridden by the voter approval to it? Can I propose that?
I think that's already covered in the RSA.
That's what?
I think that's already covered in RSA 32:5B.
Yeah, the RSA that empowers this act also empowers the town to override it if there's a particular budget item in the future that the town would like to spend more than the allocated 3%. It is allowed, but it requires the same 3/5 majority that putting this in place requires. I think you're suggesting a simple majority to override. If you're suggesting a simple majority, I would say vote this down because you have that power already.
Yeah. No, I would say a supermajority.
Okay.
A supermajority would be required.
I don't think the RSA allows that.
So a supermajority would be required to rescind the rules. However, as Mr. Bond suggested, a petitioned warrant article or a floor motion could exceed the 3% cap under the ordinary rules that exist today for empowering the citizens for floor motions and petitioned warrant articles.
Okay. May I speak to the article?
Yes.
Last Monday, we had a repairman come and install a new heater in our workshop. And we got talking about taxes, and he said he lived in Plymouth up until a couple of years ago on a small quarter-acre lot. And he said they raised his taxes. He decided it was just too much, and he moved out to Groton. I'd like to say, and I know I'm not alone, the tax increases in the last 2 or 3 years have been extraordinary. My taxes have increased by 46.5% over the last 3 years. Now, it's possible to tax people out of their property. And I'm surprised that the selectmen couldn't recommend either of these two articles. We're all forced to live by the Consumer Price Index. Why can't you live by it? Also, the CPI for last year, the Consumer Price Index, was 2.7%. The Social Security adjustment was 2.5%. Now, I think this, I don't know what the tax implications of this warrant are, but I think they're going to be considerably more than that. And we have, like probably a lot of older retired couples, I say older and not old, but older retired couples paid off our mortgage. But right now it stands that even though I own the house outright, we own the house outright, we are in effect going to have to pay the town rent of about $1,300 a month just to live in the house that we own and pay and have paid off. And that just does not seem right. We have a good view and so forth, but it's just not. We had always thought that we would like to spend a lot of money on our property and improvements. We would like to keep it in the family. But my grandkids will never be able to afford the taxes if they could afford the mortgage on it. So I think we need this article. I think we need to send a message to the selectmen, and they haven't seemed to get it the last 3 years, that taxes make a difference. And, and we know that our department heads, well qualified, they are advocates for their department. They ask for things, but it's up to you to set priorities and decide what you're going to be present to the town. People in Plymouth support the town. Whatever you send to us, it's going to get passed almost for sure. So it's your responsibility to really vet this budget well, because that's what's going to happen. Thank you.
Hi, Katie Wood Hedberg. I live on Emerson Street, and I want to speak about the detriment to having a tax cap. There are many, I pay taxes, we all know they're high, and I believe all of our department heads and our select board work very hard to keep our taxes at a low level. But having been on school board and now being a county commissioner, there are expenses that come with a municipality or a county or a school that are outside the control of our select board. There are instances, when I was on the school board, we had times that our insurance rates went up by over 10%, up to 10 to 15%. At the county, we are facing perhaps, if we can't find another insurance provider, a 25% increase in the premiums. If that happens to the town, then the town would need to find those monies by cutting other services and whatnot. So I think we have to look at the fact that we need services, and each person here tries to do it in a fiscally responsible way. I think putting an artificial cap on it will be a detriment to the town, and our property values will probably continue to go up. So I speak in opposition to this bill. Thank you.
Good evening, David Kent. I'm going to speak against the article. I think it's a bad idea. I think the remedy for the people in the town is at the ballot box. Who they put in office, and with what kind of promise those people make relative to what they're going to do with the budget. Now, we can all relate to this article, and I'll tell you why it's a bad idea. You go out to buy a car. You get two choices. You can finance it or you can pay cash. So somebody says, I'll give you a great deal if you pay cash for the car. That happens to the town sometimes. They get a better deal. It costs more money for 1 year. They don't pay for 20 years, and we're better off for it. We bite the bullet for 1 year, and that's the end of it. We got to have the flexibility, trust the board to do what's right, in my view. So if you want a remedy, don't elect people who are going to spend the money. Thank you very much.
I'm Molly McCann. Hi, everyone. So taxes in Plymouth are painfully high, as everyone has said many times. Simply put, however, this proposed article is not a solution to the tax burden, but rather a kneecapping of our town's ability to basically function. Just yesterday, a majority of the voters of this town passed the Tenny Mountain Overlay District. This change to our land use has the potential to broaden our tax base, which would distribute the amount of money to be raised by property tax across a wider group, thus alleviating some of the tax burden. We will not be able to take advantage of that if we cannot grow to rise to meet that change. If we are stymied by these proposals, we will simply not be able to rise to meet it, and we will not succeed in doing what this seeks to do, which is stabilize our taxes. Instead of self-sabotaging and treating our representatives here and our staff people as though they are bad actors, I encourage my fellow citizens to look at our state legislature, to how they have repeatedly refused to increase support to municipalities for at least 10 years to keep up with inflation, and have in fact repealed many of the sources of revenue that help municipalities, such as the dividends tax, the room and meals tax, and the business enterprise tax. The state legislature is essentially forcing property taxpayers to take up what they refuse to support us with. So I encourage everyone to speak to your friends in Rumney, in Holderness, in Hebron, and Bristol, Warren, wherever your friends are in the rest of the state. I encourage you to ask them who represents them in Concord, and ask them to encourage their representatives to do what it takes to stop the downshifting of costs onto municipalities, because we are feeling the burn. I also ask you to resist the temptation of what looks like an easy solution to our tax burden in this budget cap. I personally want to continue to live in a town that functions, that benefits from top-notch employees, that help us innovate and be a place that we can proudly call our home. We will not be able to do so if we cap our budget so severely, and these are very hard times, but it is not the time to undercapitalize ourselves. Our future as a town depends on it. Thank you.
Hello all, my name is Avery Oakland. I live on Hawthorne Street, and for full transparency, I am a municipal employee, but I am not speaking in that capacity tonight. I want to make this short and sweet and just let you all know that I am a young person, recent college grad, and the rent prices reflect all the taxes that you all pay as well. It's hard on everyone living in this town. However, what makes all of us love Plymouth so deeply is the deep concern from our public officials to make this town function appropriately. Everyone cares about what happens here. We all want to see this town flourish, and passing this would be, as Molly said, completely kneecapping our growth opportunities. If we want to keep expanding our tax base and making this an attractive place to live for young people, young families, you know, the basis of vitality in coming decades, we cannot pass this. And that is all I wanted to say. Thank you very much for your time.
Hi everyone, my name is Vicki Nee. I'm a student at Plymouth State University, and I am here to voice my opposition against this amendment. So here's something I've heard tonight from multiple people. We all have this common consensus. People don't want to pay higher taxes. In speech, a tax cap sounds great. However, academic and empirical evidence shows that this proposition in practice isn't feasible. Our taxes pay for the roads that we all took to drive here, the building that we are sitting in right now, the first responders sitting in front of us at this very moment, and many other municipal programs. Our municipality deserves funding to continue such programs and not running them on continuous thin margins. A 3% cap doesn't cut spending. It forces us to push spending to the future when it is likely more expensive. One bad snowstorm, which is likely in Plymouth, could force the cost of repairs to cut another municipal program. Even if the town maintains the same level of services, inflation alone could push costs above 3%, meaning this cap would essentially force cuts to keep doing, force cuts to things that we're already doing. It is not always representative of less municipal spending. Yes, Plymouth has an issue with high property taxes. Yes, New Hampshire has an issue with high taxes, but you know what that's a result of? That is a result of our state legislature continuing to gut essential programs and subsequently putting the economic deficit burden on our municipal workers. They end up having to make these deep, difficult decisions that anger all of us. If you truly care about property tax increases, don't punish the children that have to attend local schools in Plymouth. Don't punish the residents who have to drive these roads. Don't punish the local towns and Plymouth residents who rely on our fire departments. Don't punish the students at Plymouth State. Punish your state representatives who are actively creating these laws that drive up property taxes. Children deserve their education. People deserve safe roads. People deserve safety. That's all I have to say.
Good evening. Sorry. My name is Bryn Ninos, and I have a question of clarification. I want to make sure I understand this warrant really clearly. Is this warrant saying that the select board cannot recommend anything that would increase our taxes more than 3%, or is it recommending that the budget cannot increase more than 3%? Can I have some clarification?
So it says that you cannot recommend a budget that would lead to taxes increasing 3%.
Okay, thank you.
Which is
So-
a little bit complicated,
Which
I
is
understand.
a little complicated.
Right? This is not a simple formula. This has to take into account the valuation of the town in order to do the secondary. It's not straight the budget. It's the effect of the budget on the town.
Okay, all right then. I would like to make a comment. I'm busy. I'm a mom of 3 kids. I got a job. I got a second job. You know, our taxes are high. I have 2 jobs. I sympathize with that concern so heavily because I live it too. But one of the things I do is I elect my select board members and I trust them because they have to go to meetings and they have to pay attention to this stuff and they do the work that I'm too busy to do. I don't want to do. So I really want to speak in opposition to this. I think really important reasoning has already been stated. But I think the other thing is we have elected people. We have put trust in them to do the work they're supposed to do. If we don't like them, let's vote them out. And but I think we need to give them the trust to do the job we gave them to do. Thank you.
Oh, I thought I was the last, but hi, how are you? Good. Hi, Anna Hattendorf. I wrote something earlier today, so excuse my reading. Regarding a tax cap, I understand full-heartedly why people are frustrated by the constantly rising town taxes, although last year I believe they did not rise. Is that correct? Or the budget didn't?
It's complicated.
I know it's
So
complicated.
The tax rate did not.
The tax rate did not, that's
And
correct.
an effect that happened in this community is more valuation shifted to residential, and especially the lower end residential house growth exceeded the commercial growth. So for the individuals in town, they were affected, especially if you were in a lower value house, you were affected more than
Okay.
the average tax increase.
Okay, thank you. But I don't think that this is the right proposal. I agree something needs to be done, but a cap is not the right solution. Suppose you look at other communities very close to ours, like Bristol. A cap has not been a solution there. Every year, the school, for example, proposes a 2% increase in the budget, only to be struck down and face more cuts, slowly chopping away at the system. It's caused more and more issues. For example, this will greatly affect, a cap will greatly affect our school's budget. We have 2, the elementary school and our high school. And the way, this is how we educate our youth. It's the American system. It has always been that the older generation who use their taxes to fund the education of the younger generation. So for those of you here today, the older generation paid for all of your education if you went to public school. So it's up to us to make sure that everyone now is properly educated. That ensures that they will then do the same for the next generation. If we take that away, we're disrupting the system. If you look at other communities with a tax cap, you'll see that they're not allowing these communities to flourish. In fact, they're stalling it. We currently live in a state where change needs to happen from the state level down. This challenge is how to make it, the challenge is how to make it work at a town level. The system we currently have is broken and no longer working. A tax cap, I truly feel, will hurt more people than it will do good. We need to find a better way to stop tax increases for Plymouth residents. We also need to educate our youth and provide the services that need to stay safe. As a small community, we need to work together. I implore you to take a look at the bills being passed and who to vote for at the next state election, because that is how we change, how we can alter things at the town level. In other places, with a college, there are ways to build better relationships. I've been watching the New Hampshire online on Facebook. Perhaps we can go back to the drawing board with PSU to see what they can offer us as a community. It may not be a tax revenue, but perhaps a redone athletic field with the tracks and lights for our high school and our community, or a pool for the community. This has been done from where I moved from. There was a local college, and they were able to redo the turf fields or redo the football fields in turf and whatnot. So it's something that might be worth a discussion. If you have the other thing is maybe we look at adjustments for tax rates. If you have a secondary property in Plymouth, there could be a different rate for those who have a year-round residence. For those who have Airbnbs, there should be a different rate, as no tax is paid on room rentals if you own an Airbnb. Just a handful of ideas to get started. I've seen this community come together. We can solve this problem. We live in an era where it's time to think outside the box and be creative. Thank you for your time.
Mr. Moderator, can I address one topic?
There's a motion on the floor to call the question. Again, this is
I'll keep it short. I promise you. Like,
yeah, the motion. I hear you, Bruce.
All right.
The motion's been made. Again, if this is to call the vote, it's a simple majority vote. If you are in favor and would like to vote now and not continue the discussion, vote in the affirmative. All those in. Sorry. Sure. The town has the ultimate authority. All those in favor of letting the people in line continue to speak? Aye. All those opposed? Aye. Great. We will allow the people in line to continue to speak, and then we will call the question.
Can I still?
Phil has.
So I would like to, there was, one of the previous speaker mentioned school taxes, and I wanted to clarify that this cap can only apply to the town tax rate. In 2024, the total tax rate was $25.13 per thousand. The town portion was $10.93, 43% of that. So if implemented, this will not affect the school taxes or the county taxes. You can cap 40% of the budget or whatever the town portion is, but it will not apply to the rest of the tax bill.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. Hello, my name is Bruce Wiggett. Question to the board. Zach, you had read that earlier in terms of it can't raise more than 3% of the budget from the previous year, correct? Can you read it exactly how it's read again?
Yes. So, So the way that it works is you can't submit a budget that would cause more than 3% of additional money to be raised by taxes.
Perfect. So I've heard people say that it's going to stunt growth. We can grow, and those valuations will make a difference. So if you grow and your valuations in town, when you submit your budget, will be lower than the 3%, those homes don't get counted in it? Because the way he just read it, it would.
Actually, the bulk amount to be raised by taxes that gets divided by the assessed values of property. So your assessed values go up.
Hold on, imploring to the moderator to.
Yep.
Am I good?
Go ahead, Zach.
You are correct, Bruce. However, there is a delayed effect there.
Okay.
Because we don't know the total assessed value of the
When you
town
assess,
when we set the
Okay.
budget, right? So we don't know what it's going to be. So yes, if you've got sustained growth over a long period of time, you can probably comfortably forecast. But we're always using, when we talk about tax impact, we're using an old number because we don't know what it'll be.
And then I'm going to ask him another question. In the last 5 years, has this board felt hampered by anything in terms of their monetary spending? In the last 5 years. You feel as though you've done everything you've been able to do. We've had capital reserves created, we've fixed roads, we've done everything we're supposed to do. So since 2020,
Yes.
until this year, we've only raised taxes 11%. So on average, you're averaging 2% increase every year. Yes. In 2020, the budget was $12,220,000, and in 2025, it was $13,575,245. It's an 11% increase over 5 years, which, divide that by 5, you're averaging about 2%-ish.
Some of those years are higher and some
Higher
of those
and
years
lower.
are lower.
Some of them are
Yeah.
higher and lower, but on average, we've averaged 2%. This year, we proposed a $17.9 million operating cost budget. That's a $4.3 million increase. It's 24.5%. All I'm saying is, we did great for 5 years when we averaged 2 to 3%. It just feels oppressive when we make a $4.3 million jump. Proposing that we make $25 million investment, which will add easily $1 or so per thousand. It's just concerning. I don't want to hamstring anybody. I don't want to stop anybody from doing their jobs. But from someone who's looking at living the rest of their life in a town, I shouldn't have to find a job making $35,000 a year to afford just to pay my taxes in 20 years. Thank you so much.
I'm Gisela Estes, and we moved to Plymouth in 1971, and we have raised our children here. And I just want to point out that half of the buildings in Plymouth, about half of them, are off the tax map, and those are the medical facilities, the churches, and the university buildings. And this is one of the reasons, maybe the reason, that our taxes are so high. But on the other hand, those facilities also make our place a really special and nice place to live. So by paying the high taxes, we also get a return. There are so many things offered at the university that we all can go to. A lot of them are inexpensive, and having the medical facility so close, and then being able to have short drives or walks to the churches, it comes out in the end that maybe it's evened out. Thank you.
I'm not speaking for or against the article. I just have a really simple question. And my simple question is, are
Sorry.
taxes going up 20%?
Can you say your name?
Oh, Judy DeLeo, sorry. If I did my math right, I'm seeing a 20% increase.
That's highly unlikely.
Well, that's interesting, because if you add up all the numbers, so that's what I'm asking. Add up all the numbers that you guys are proposing, and our current tax rate is 9.9, and we're going up to 1173. Is that correct?
Not necessarily. So what is not included in the numbers that you see is the change in revenue. So, for example, if we add additional, if the SAFER grant article passes, as an example, right? This is a very tangible example. The SAFER grant article passes, then part of the revenue that we get as a town is from our ambulance services. And we pass on 100% of the cost of the calls that we send out to communities.
Totally understand that. But
So
right now,
so the revenues would increase commensurate with some of what we're looking at here. So we don't know what the revenues are going to be until we set the tax rate later. So all we can do is estimate right now. But the high
right now
end,
it's 20%.
the absolute high end would be there, but it's unlikely that that will be the effective increase.
Okay.
you're up next.
William Bond again. Trying to answer your question, the 20% that you did with the, I did this at the budget meeting, and the 20% is what it looks like, but the revenues don't come in. But you need to remember that the town budget is only about 40% of your tax bill. So a 20% increase in the town budget might only be an actually around a 10% increase in your actual tax bill. But, and Zach, you can probably correct me here, a more accurate way to look at it might be in the warrant, there is a list on each article that says the expected tax impact per thousand. If you were to add all those up, you would see, I believe it comes out somewhere in the $2 range. You multiply that times the number of thousands of dollars your house is worth, you'll know how much your taxes are actually going to go up based on these proposals and the best info that we have.
And again, that would be a worst case scenario if nothing better happens in terms of our revenues.
Okay, great. And the only other clarification was, thanks for bringing up about the school, because it's not part of what we're talking about here. I also would bring up the data point that New Hampshire actually is in about the top 5 states in the country in terms of per pupil spending, and Plymouth is actually at the top end of New Hampshire. We spend, from yesterday's election, it looks like around $21,000 per pupil. We're up with, I believe it's Massachusetts, New York, Connecticut in terms of our per pupil spending. So we actually do invest a lot in our students right now, but this doesn't actually have any impact whatsoever on the school system. So, yeah.
Martin Den Hartog of Plymouth. I've been here for 36 years. I'm speaking on behalf of my fiance, who's in Florida taking care of her parents. Last year, her taxes went up 125%. And she asked why. She said because they told her desirability. I'm sorry, the word desirability is an opinion. It's not a fact. They came and reassessed her. My question is what is the stipulation? What is the taxes based on? They told her that it was desirability. Desirability can be one thing for another person, but some people's taxes didn't go up 125%. So I would like to know why her taxes went up 125%, and then they went almost double last year. So I'm wondering if her taxes are going to go up even more, and why hers went up to 125%.
Sir, I'd encourage you to follow up with the town perhaps after your specific indication, but your point is well taken.
Okay, thank you.
Time to vote.
All right, there's a call to question motion on the floor. Can I get a second? All in favor? Aye. Bob, will you indicate what box people are to vote in, please? No, for Article 8. All right, well, we've made it through 2 of 30-something articles in about an hour and a half, so I appreciate your all's bearing with us. Our first ballot will be opened here in about 3 minutes. 6. Which is to say, if you're still holding a white piece of paper with the unripped yes or no, and you want to have your voice heard, now is your time. All right, moving on to Article 9. Article 9 is modification to the Disabled Veteran Act tax credit, $2,750. Shall the town modify the provisions of RSA 72:35 for an optional tax credit of $2,750 for a service-connected total disability in residential property? If approved, this article should take effect April 1st, 2026. No, it's not April Fool's, for the 2026 property year. A simple majority vote is required for this article, and the Select Board recommends this article. All right, any debate? Please approach the microphone if you want to be recognized.
John Dockery, what's the cost on this? Is there an estimate?
Scott?
Yep, absolutely. There are actually 12 disabled vets that receive this benefit, and raising it up to $2,750, it has an impact of $9,000.
Would you all like to vote? Yes. Great. If you would like to pass this article, please vote in the affirmative by stating yay. Yay. Opposed? Article passes. We did it. We did it. It's great. All right, Article 10, Refuse Ordinance Update. To see if the town will vote to adopt the revised refuse and solid waste ordinance as proposed by the Select Board. The updated ordinance will modify the existing ordinance adopted by the town in 1996. The revised ordinance will require dumpsters to be reinforced with bear and animal-proof lids, metal lids and covers, and will further allow the Select Board pursuant enforcement and levy fines from $100 to $250 for violation of the ordinance. A majority vote is required, and the Select Board recommends this article. Would anybody like to be recognized?
David Nash, Fairgrounds Road. Is this for all zoning districts in the town?
Yes, this is for the whole town.
Okay, so minor point, I waited 6 months for a dumpster from Witcher, and it comes with plastic lids. Now, during bear season, I strapped it down with a ratchet strap. I'm in a pretty heavily, I would say, bare area, but I'm probably going to have a hard time getting a new dumpster from Witcher. So, not sure if the article could be modified in some way to reflect that.
Good evening. My name is Jeff Therian, and I would like to make a motion to amend the proposed refuse ordinance update. Proceed.
What's your amendment?
Okay. The proposed ordinance has important and necessary updates for our dumpsters. After talking with the fire chief, several business owners, and the townspeople of Plymouth, I feel it could benefit from a few adjustments to avoid unintended consequences. Bear-proof dumpsters are an excellent solution when needed. The lids, however, are quite heavy. In other words, if you have, no matter what size your can, you're going to be putting these metal lids on, and for anyone, a tenant, a resident, it's very difficult to lift those lids. In other words, what you're going to do is you're going to create another problem. We're going to have problems that people, when they don't open the lid, where are they going to put their trash? All over the dumpster, and you're going to have bears and other animals that are going to tear that apart, which is going to be just about the same issue, but maybe worse. The purpose that the structure of the ordinance, so the town has legal authority to address the dumpster problems without taking what's called a blanket approach that requires all containers to be converted. In other words, containers that, we'll say, haven't got hit by a bear in 20 years. Why do we have to change those? Those shouldn't be necessary to change. The dumpsters that have been hit several times and are a problem for Kevin Pierce and his fire department or others, I feel that we could structure the ordinance different. I believe they should have some teeth and some authority to fine you if you mismanage your dumpsters. And they have it in their new ordinance proposal, their structure of fines. And what I would like to suggest is that the fines stay in the ordinance as written, but at the end of the fines, we write in that after the second offense, if your dumpster gets hit by a bear twice, let's say Kevin gets called after the second offense, then you are required by the town with their authority to put the metal lids on. The moderator, do I go through the changes in the new proposed ordinance that was presented, like the changes that are on there, like I say, like section 3, which are the general standards and requirements? Do I go through that? What would be striked on that?
If
Is that
you'd like to
appropriate?
bring your completed amendment to me,
Okay.
I can read it aloud for everybody.
Okay. So in section 3, general standards and requirements, I would strike a bear or other wildlife-proof dumpster and just put in container, AKA dumpster. Section 4, standards for specific uses, I would strike to include animal-proof enclosures and just leave all above listed entities are subject to all other provisions of this ordinance. And then, again, after the 2 violations in that particular dumpster, the town has the authority after the fines to then require whoever, the property owner, the land, whoever it is, the business, to then put on the bear-proof lids, being the metal lids. Thank you.
Could someone please just read what the whole amendment is?
The amendment's like 4 pages long.
Is that something do you want to read the whole?
Yeah. If you want to bring me the full amendment, I will read the amendment in full for everybody. This is the fun part, right? Here's the suggested amendments are limited. I won't read all 4 pages. I don't think anybody needs that. If you want to, you're welcome to come up and reference it next to me here. The amendments are to strike the following. Out of Article 10, require dumpsters to be reinforced with bear and animal-proof lids, metal and lid covers, and further will. So the new line will read, the revised ordinance will allow the select board to pursue enforcement and levy fines from $100 to $250 for violation of the ordinance.
Wow. We have the fire chief speak in regards to those because he oversees the refuse ordinance.
Once I'm done reading this. Yeah. In section 3, subsection C, line 2, strike a bear or other wildlife-proof dumpster and replace it with container. Section 4, subsection D, strike to include animal-proof enclosures altogether. So now the section will read, all above listed entities are subject to all other provisions of this ordinance. And in section 6, to add, after 2 violations by the same person or persons, the Plymouth Health Officer and Code Enforcement Officer can require that the on-site refuse container be replaced with a bear-proof or other wildlife-proof dumpster. That's all for the amendment. And if, Chief, you'd like to speak to that?
Mr. Moderator, yes, I would. Thank you. I'm Kevin Pierce, your fire chief. Also, a lot of you are wondering why the fire chief's talking about dumpsters, and they don't just burn when they call us. I'm also the health officer, all right? So, just for clarification there. This is not unorthodox for the fire department. So this complaint, really, this ordinance had to be addressed because A, it's been since 1996, but B, just in the last 2 years, we've had an increased amount of animals and refuse, and honestly, complacent dumpster owners, I guess you call, and not only dumpsters, but trash cans. So 2024, we had 53 instances. Last year, I went to 63, and that's just the ones that I really kept track of. There's a lot of others like, hey, clean up your trash, and they did. But I've had several occasions where I've had to go out to deal with animals that got into trash cans, and I had to address it with the neighbors because their trash was, the refuse, to be correct, was thrown about other neighbors' properties. And I go to address it with them, and I have no authority to do anything. I was
in some cases, I was told, too bad, I'm not cleaning it up. And we had elderly people out getting hurt trying to clean up their trash. And this goes not just in the town hub, but all across. I'm talking Tenny Mountain Highway, all over where we get these complaints. So what this ordinance was originally drafted for is to give me the authority to do something about it, all right? So find bad neighbors or find people that don't take care of their stuff, but also restrict the dumpsters. Now, clearly, I understand it was very restrictive as far as, dumpster ordinances and all that. That was with recommendation from the state DES, the Fish and Game. We're talking with other communities like Littleton, Haverhill, Lincoln, all those that have bear problems. Now, I am convinced, for the record, some of you are feeding the bears. But with that said, this gives me the authority to address it now. Now, I have talked to Jeff, Mr. Theron, about this because there was an inconsequent reaction that I didn't even really talk about with some of the shareholders. And the landlords, for example, they're very good neighbors. They're very attentive to their dumpsters, especially the ones within the community hub of the college. So we worked out a mutual agreement, and I am supportive of this amendment, that it gives me the authority to deal with the folks that just don't want to take care of their stuff that affects their neighbors. And then also when we have several commercial dumpsters that are known problems and they just don't get the hint, this will allow me to force them to upgrade to a bear-proof dumpster where we know these critters clearly are very satisfied there. And so this is what that is. I'm supportive of the amendment, and certainly this isn't just shooting off the hip. This is several years of a growing problem. That's all I got.
William Bond, are we discussing the proposed amendment to the article right now, or are we discussing the original article at this point?
Right now, we are discussing the amendment, which removes the language that's specific to bear and other wildlife-proof dumpsters, but enables the chief to have teeth in his enforcement.
I felt like I heard a word in there, containers. Is that where, that sounds to me like trash barrels, not just dumpsters. Is that correct? And is that in what is subject to this or part of the remedy? Because reading subsections, I understand we don't want to read 4 pages, but I don't understand the intent of the amendment yet.
So the intent of the amendment is not just, as I said earlier, is not just dumpsters, it's also trash containers. We have several that leave them outside, they get knocked over, they get dry on. So it's just really, obviously the first step is educate the community, but it's sad that we even have to get to this point that we have to do a strict thing on just trash cans alone. But that's the reality of it, is it's affected neighbors. So it is both in different avenues of this ordinance.
Gotcha. So this will affect also trash cans, but it will give you the ability to not require a bear-proof dumpster until you notify the property owner, correct? You have the option to not. I feel like that was part of the intent of the amendment.
Yeah, it's like with a speeding ticket. We don't have to give you a ticket until it's justified. So in this case, they're going to get the hint that they got a bear-proof dumpster coming their way because they're going to have 2 tickets before that.
Okay, great.
Is there a motion to vote on the amendment?
I'm already standing here.
Great.
Thanks. Regarding the amendment, Maggie Mumford from Plymouth. Question for the chief. If you know that somebody already has had 2 visits to the dumpster, are those the 2 strikes before this passes? My reasoning is that 2 strikes doesn't mean you've just got bad folks not taking care of the dumpster. You've got a nuisance bear. And giving 2 strikes moving forward is creating wildlife problems. Thanks.
Yeah, I think we're already there with that. I certainly can't go back on history. We have to start fresh from this moving forward, to be fair. So, but certainly there's several locations that I've identified that they are going to be told they got to upgrade immediately, and they generally know who they are.
All right, there's a call to question, call to vote. Can I get a second? Okay, if you want to vote in the affirmative for the amendment, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed to the amendment? All right, amendment passes. Again, if you would like to review the amendment exact language, it'll be available to you. Now we're going to vote actually on the amended article. So Article 10, the spirit of this amendment is to remove, as you heard, the requirements for specific bear or other wildlife-proof dumpsters. The chief supports this amendment, and as the health officer, he's responsible for enforcing it, and will use some common sense. So all those in favor indicate by saying yay. Yay. All those opposed? Great. Article passes. All right, I have the results of Article 6, which is the Land Purchase Public Safety Complex. We had 252 votes cast, which would require 151 votes to pass, and there were 178 votes in the affirmative. The article passes. The no vote was 74.
Hello, my name is Marcy Wisniewski. Regarding Article 6, I motion for a sense of the meeting. You had mentioned earlier that we needed to do that, or could do that, possibly.
You should state what it is you want to get a sense of the meeting on.
A sense of the meeting that, I'm not sure if I'm wording this right, but there was consensus among the group that we did not want this property being sold to a nonprofit. Am I right? Okay.
Right, so sense of the meeting is being called to the vote. The sense of the meeting is that these properties, police station, fire department, are not to be sold to a nonprofit. All those affirmative? Aye. Any opposed? All right, you heard it, sense of the meeting. There we go. All right, Article 11. Airport hangar lease. Shall the town vote to authorize the select board to enter into a 25-year long-term lease agreement to lease a portion of the land at the Plymouth Municipal Airport to a private investor, such terms as may be negotiated and agreed upon by the select board with private investors. A simple majority vote is required on this, and the select board recommends the article. Would anybody like to be recognized?
Could we please get a brief, Molly McCann, could we please get a brief explanation of, has the airport been privately leased before? And is this a renewal of something normal, or is this a new arrangement, and why? Thank you.
Sure, Molly. It is a continuation of a current lease to the same leasee. The $600 is per year for 25 years, accumulating up to $15,000 worth of revenue. The airport hangar is a taxable piece of property and is assessed and taxed, and the taxes per year are $3,033, and those taxes have been made current up through the last tax bill.
Thank you.
With nobody up at the microphone, nobody wants to be recognized, so we will bring it to a vote. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Article passes. All right, Article 12, General Governmental and Departmental Expenses. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $11,180,278 for fiscal year 2026 to 2027, general governmental and departmental expenses as follows. Salaries, fees, and expenses, Select Board's Office, $311,098. Pemmy Baker TV, $96,120. Election Registration Vital Statistics, Town Clerk's Office, $204,321. Financial Administration, $334,557. Reappraisal of property, $98,100. Legal and prosecutor services for the Plymouth Police Department, $196,182. Personal administration, health, dental, and FSA fees, $1,466,861. Planning and zoning, $160,264. Land use enforcement, $96,334. General governmental buildings, $194,300. Miscellaneous insurance, workers' comp, liability, and unemployment, $267,060. Airport administration, $11,598. Advertising and regional association, $8,143. Police department, $2,067,385. Police dispatch, $548,071. Ambulance, $1,654,965. Fire department, $571,166. Emergency management, $6,750. Town mechanic, $98,229. Street lighting, $67,000. Recycling department solid waste, $591,786. Pemmy Baker's solid district dues, $4,500. Health office, $5,000. New Hampshire Humane Society, $7,364. Welfare officer, $17,221. Welfare vendor payments, $60,000. Recreation programs, $402,503. Parks and grounds, $283,283. Library, $491,758. Patriotic purposes, $4,700. Other cultural recreation, $15,500. Conservation Commission, $5,350. Care of trees, $7,500. Infrastructure bond payment number 11, approved in 2016, is $101,200. Solar array bond 3, approved in 2025, $80,420. Infrastructure bond payment number 6, approved in 2020, $276,215. Library expansion product bond payment number 16, $127,624. 223 Main Street construction bond payment number 3, $239,850. The Select Board recommends this article. The estimated gross tax impact for this warrant article is $13.73 per 100,000 in property valuation. The estimated net tax impact for this warrant article is $7.28 per 100,000 in property valuation. 1,000 per thousand. I'm sorry. Thank you. Whoa. All right. Would a member of the Select Board or Scott like to speak to this article?
This is the budget that was put together, and the budget process started back in July.
Microphone.
I'm sorry. The budget process started back in July, where the department heads came in with their wants, their needs, and their must-haves. At that point, myself and the finance director met with each department head, and we reviewed their budgets and narrowed it down to what the must-haves were, and went through the process with them. Then we moved the process to the Budget Committee, and the Budget Committee met with each department head, went through their budgets to assure that the numbers were in line with where they thought they should be based on the documentation and information with regards to each one of their budget lines within their budget. Then the budget moved on to the Select Board, and then we went into public hearings, and this is where the budget ended with regards to what the recommendation was based on hours and hours of deliberation with department heads, the finance director, the Budget Committee, and the Select Board.
Would a member of the Select Board like to motion to move forward with the article?
So moved.
Second? Second. All right. Would anybody like to be recognized to discuss the article?
I guess this is why.
Sorry, John. Your
Pardon?
name?
My name? Yes. John Tucker. I guess this is why I think we need an Article 8. But I looked back at last year's warrant, and the total general government and department expenses went up 12%. Now, again, I go back to the consumer price index. That's 3 or 4%. And that's what retirees get in their Social Security. But the selectmen present a budget that, in fact, your part goes up 8% also. I don't know how you justify that. Do you have any guidelines? Did you say we're going to try to limit the taxes or not? The tax increases again, I'll say, in the last 3 years have been extraordinary. If you're a property owner, you got hammered this year. And so I guess, for instance, salaries and fees went up 8%. Why?
There was a 3% contract agreement increase, and then there was pay adjustments, and the pay adjustments in the salary increase based on contractual agreements.
So it's built in that it has to go up?
That is correct.
Okay. The ambulance went up 19%. What's going on there?
Just waiting for it to power up. All right, so the ambulance went up 19%. Yes, that may be, but part of that is the 3%. So for those that don't understand our budget's split into two, EMS and fire, so ambulance. So ambulance, 77% of our budget is EMS related. Of that 77%, 52% of it directly correlates costs to do service in Plymouth. The rest of it is received through contractual agreements. So that difference right there, we generate through EMS billing and contracts with the other communities that we provide EMS for. So point taken is that our revenues are well over $800,000. So we get that money back easily, and then some. So but the cost for it going up is the cost of supplies. Our EMS supplies went up 20% alone last year, and that's nothing we can control, Ms. Tucker. We put it out to bid, and that's the lowest bid we get back, and that's simply the cost of doing business. We have no control of the market with EMS supplies, and that really, that rakes us over the coals as an industry as a whole. So those are the things associated with our budget going up.
So what would the impact on the taxes?
I'm sorry, I'm not understanding your question.
Well, your budget went up 19%. That must have an impact on the taxes.
Yeah, I guess, Scott, you want to help me out with this one? I'm
Yeah,
not
the-
sure
the
really what he's
impact-
asking.
The impact for all of them is $7.28. I think, John, what's important that maybe we're not understanding is that the budget is $1.6 million, but we receive $900,000 in revenue to offset that $1.6 million based on the usage from the 8 towns that we contract with. So in the past, we were never collecting enough to be made whole with the services we were providing. 2 years ago, we implemented a new billing structure, so we are being made whole for every transport that we make from Ashland, Holderness, Warren, Wentworth, all the contracted towns that we have. So that $1.6 million is offset by $900,000 in revenue back to the town.
Totally offset.
Correct.
Okay. And the fire department went up 16%.
Yep.
Again,
Mr. Tucker, I don't know what to tell you. This is simply the cost for fire service. The town of Plymouth, the fire department budget, this is your fire trucks, the fuel, the hose, all that stuff has gone up, and we've actually cut our equipment line. This is me cutting the budget to compensate the best I could for that without not sending you a fire truck. I mean, it's tough. This is the industry, and this is that 3% cap goes right against that. This is the struggles we have as department heads, just trying to do a balanced budget.
I want to draw your attention, for anybody who has a book in front of them, if we look at page 112 of our book, we see general government from last year, estimated tax impact for that warrant article was $7.21. This year, we're saying the estimated impact of this warrant article, $7.28. So year over year, we're talking about 7 cents in this category on the tax rate.
Okay. Well, and finally, I'll just ask this. If all of these, if the whole warrant article passes as it's listed here, what's the impact on, how much are our taxes going to go up?
The estimate is 7 cents.
How much?
For this part, for this warrant article, the estimate is 7 cents.
7 cents?
7 cents per thousand. It would affect the estimate, again, not taking into account all revenues and all, right, all of those asterisks that I've given. But yes, the estimate is a 7 cent tax rate difference year over year on this item.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Katie Badalak. I just wanted to speak about concerns about the tax rate. Obviously, everybody is concerned about it. I'm hearing a lot. Many of the speakers, most of the speakers are talking about how terrible it is, and it affects us, it affects different people differently. I got whacked 2 years ago when we had an evaluation, and it was very upsetting. I made adjustments. But then 2 years later, which was this year, we got our new evaluations, which I want to thank Scott for suggesting that we do a more frequent evaluation, because then it would be easier, as I understand it, to catch the highs and lows in the tax rate instead of getting whacked with a big one every 5 years. So I did better this year. The town tax rate, the town, not the school, not the county, the town tax rate, as I understand it, went down. My evaluation went down. Some people might say that's a bad thing, but I mean, I thought it was probably overpriced in the first place. So I just want to say publicly thank you for making that suggestion, and just to represent the people who did better this year than we did 2 years ago. Thank you.
William Bond, just a point of clarification. The best way for people to understand the tax impact of these is to add up everything they're planning to vote for, and they can estimate all of the dollars and cents per thousand times your most recent assessed value from the town. Is that correct? In rough approximation?
That's correct.
Okay. So and then the valuations changed in the last year. Is that correct? So the 7 cents per
Every year.
thousand, yeah, the 7 cents per thousand is not the full picture if the total town valuations went up. Is that correct? Not that I think it's a meaningful difference.
No, the estimates in this book are based off last year's valuations because we don't know what the valuations will be in the next round.
But the estimates from last year were based on the year before that.
That's correct.
So
yes.
it's hard to compare year to year, correct?
It
and the
is
best way to
challenging.
figure out what your taxes may be is to add up all the values for the warrant articles that you plan on supporting and multiply that times your current valuation. Is that correct?
That is correct.
This is how you figure out how much this is all going to cost.
Hi, Lindsay Hale. I just was wondering what the unassigned fund balance was at the end of 2025.
Sure, it's $2.4 million.
Okay. Are we planning on using any to reduce the tax rate?
Well, there's several different theories on how unassigned fund balance should be used. There's the Intercity Managers Association recommendation and the methodology that they use, as well as other finance companies out there. The most recognized way to use unassigned fund balance in a municipal setting is you never use it for reoccurring expenses, because that comes year after year after year. But if you look at the capital improvement program and you identify one-time expenditures in the capital improvement program, that's where the board could make the decision to apply unassigned fund balance. So if you took this year's capital improvement program and you looked at the 26-27 that we're voting on, and you look at that tonight, there's roughly $583,000 of one-time expenditures in there, that my recommendation to the board would be to apply $583,000 out of the unassigned fund balance to offset those one-time expenditures, to offset the tax rate.
So are we doing that?
That's a decision the board will have to make next November when we set the tax rate.
So we can't use it right now, today, to reduce the tax rate?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Claire McCann. I just wanted to confirm that all of you live in Plymouth, right? And all of you pay property tax in Plymouth, correct? So all of you are also impacted by the tax implications going on municipally and statewide. So all
Not-
of you are, go ahead.
Not everybody on this table is a Plymouth resident.
Okay.
I can tell you that I am.
But everybody on the select board is a Plymouth resident, and everybody who has been involved in making these budget decisions is well informed of the consequences that they have, not only for the town, but for themselves personally, and are also facing the pressure of this budget decision, and therefore are human and are members of this town, just like everybody sitting in this room, and we are all on the same team, would be my assumption, and that the select board was elected by this town, and therefore we have put our trust in you to have our best interest at heart. So therefore, as it has been said before, go to the ballots, or go to meetings, or pay attention to state level things perhaps, more than we do so now, as it is probably not our choice to have to do at this moment, but it probably requires more participation than we need, and I appreciate all of the work that you do to try and make this as fair as possible, even if it's hard. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Charlie Barker, and I've just got a couple questions trying to figure out how all this math works. Sorry, I'm a 25-year fireman, so finances is not my strong point, so please bear with me. I was trying to add up if all the articles pass, it's like $18.32 per thousand. However, the only thing that might have been done wrong was the difference between the gross tax impact and the net tax impact to just this warrant article that we're talking about right now, Article 12. So is the net tax impact after all our revenue comes in? Is that correct?
That is correct,
That
Charlie,
is-
because many of
okay.
these items here are offset by payments from Plymouth Regional High School.
Right,
They're
and
offset for the
ambulance
Parks
calls and-
Department, for the
right.
resource officer,
All right.
for the parking fund. Several of the items are offset by funds that come from other sources.
All right, so our total then minus the $5-ish, so it's going to be about $13 more per thousand if all the articles pass. Is that correct?
Not more, that would be the estimated total.
Right, so if all this passes, the estimated total is going to be $13 per thousand. What are we paying, what did we pay this past year? Do you remember what it was?
Do you have the number handy? I think it's $9 and 96.
Charlie, the actual tax increase, if everything passed tonight, as we're talking through every warrant article, the impact is $1.75
Per thousand.
per $1,000.
Okay, all right.
And if we apply the $500,000 that Scott was talking about earlier from the fund, $500,000 offsets about 80 cents.
Right, but roughly it's going to be about what was it, $1?
A dollar. I think a dollar is probably a reasonable
per
number to assume if everything passed.
Right, so on say a $200,000 house, it's going to be an extra $200 for the year? Am I doing my math right? Yeah. All right, so 1 cup of coffee. That seems reasonable. Thank you.
None of you know me. I'm Bob Clay. I've always wanted to speak from here. I've never been able to. I will. It'll be very brief. I just want everybody to understand, because they keep going around it, you have to raise the money to spend it, whether there's income going in against it or not. So in the past, we always had one little warrant article for $60.53 for mitigation of oil down by where the highway plant is. And people were always saying, well, why do you have to do this? The state's giving us the money. Because if you don't raise it, you can't spend it. So you just need to understand that. And that's what they're trying to tell you when they're talking about the investments coming back in or the money's coming back in for ambulance and everything. they have to ask for all the money in order to spend all the money, even though they get the money back in.
Move the question.
All right. We are going to vote. If you want to vote in affirmative for this article, number 12, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
All those opposed? Article passes.
Mr. Moderator? Mr. Moderator? Okay. Okay, I didn't have to do it.
Great. There
Point
is
of order, Article 8 is still open.
Can I, Article 8 is still open for another 12 minutes.
So I'd like to amend that motion to restrict reconsideration on Articles 7, 9, 12, 11, and 6.
Great. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. All right, article number 13, cemetery. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $62,640 for maintenance of town cemeteries and authorize the withdrawal of $20,000 from the perpetual care fund created for that purpose. The balance of $42,640 is to come from general taxation. The majority vote is required. The select board recommends this article, and the estimated tax impact is 5 cents per $1,000 in valuation. Would anybody like to speak to the article? Seeing no one, we will move to a vote. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Wow, good job. All right, Article 14, police parking. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $81,335 for the purpose of funding fiscal year 2026-2027 police parking department, and to further authorize the withdrawal of $81,335 from the parking special revenue fund to offset this appropriation. No funds will come from taxation. A majority vote is required. The select board recommends this article, and there is no estimated tax impact. Would anybody like to debate this article? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? We're doing it. This is great. All right, Article 15, Police School Resource Officer. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $152,382 for the purpose of funding the fiscal year 2026-2027 Police School Resource Officer. This appropriation to be offset by $114,287 from SAU number 48 school system. The balance of $38,095 to be raised in taxation. This is a majority vote. The select board recommends the article, and the estimated tax impact for this warrant article is 4 cents per $1,000 of property valuation. Would anybody like to debate this article? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Article 16, Police Professional Firefighters Union Agreement, Plymouth Professional Firefighters Union Agreement. To see if the town will vote to approve the cost systems included in collective bargaining agreement reached between the town of Plymouth and the Plymouth Professional Firefighters Union, which calls for the following increases in salaries and benefits at the current staffing level. Fiscal year estimated increase of 2026-2027 is $256,739. 2027-2028 is $82,305. And further to raise and appropriate $256,739 for the current fiscal year, such sum representing the additional costs attributable to the salary adjustment, wage increases and benefits required by the new agreement over those that would be paid at the current staffing levels. Again, a majority vote is required. The select board recommends this article, and the estimated tax impact for this year, 2026-2027, is 31 cents per thousand. The estimated tax impact for next year, 2027-2028, is 10 cents per thousand. Would anybody like to debate this article? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Article passes. Article 17, authorization of special town meeting.
Make a motion that we strike this article.
I have a motion to strike the article. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
Mr. Moderator, I'd like to make a motion to limit reconsideration of Articles 13 through 17.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Pass. Thank you. Article 18, Highway Department, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $1,373,814 for Highway Department and authorize the withdrawal of $30,000 from the Muni Transportation Enhancement Capital Reserve account created for that purpose, and authorize the withdrawal of $10,000 from the Sidewalk Capital Reserve account with the remaining balance of $1,333,814 to come from the general taxation. The Select Board recommends this article, and the estimated tax impact is $1.63 per $1,000. Would anybody like to debate this article?
I'm Marcia Schmidt-Blaine. I'm just hoping I can get a little bit of an explanation of how this will be used. The roads are in rough shape, as many of you know, around town. I know, however, that a lot of them have been patched because of all the infrastructure work that we've been doing. So I'm wondering how this money is going to be spent.
Good question, Marcia. So I know everybody's minds are probably on Highland Street, right? Because it's actually horrible out there. So this spring, Grenice Construction, in working for Plymouth Village Water and Sewer, will be back to fix the roadway from Broadway down to Main Street. That will receive a top coat, so the road will be much smoother in that area. And from Broadway up to Reservoir Road, they will do a top coat or a skim coat, because remembering that in 2027, the town will be rebuilding the roadway from Old Woodbridge Road down to Broadway and replacing a culvert at the end of Broadway. So Highland Street is going to be taken care of. Emerson Street, you'll notice there's a warrant article as we move further on, and there's money to be appropriated for the final appropriation to completely rebuild Emerson Street, where Plymouth Village Water and Sewer did some work last year in order to improve the water and sewer area. Parker Street is another street of great concern, and you'll see in that article there's roughly $237,000 for the first appropriation for the rebuild of Parker Street. People may ask what other streets are being done. What we have done over the past 2 years is we have contracted with an engineer, the town engineer, Mike Vignali, and Mike Vignali has put together a road evaluation program for us. So when we look at the roads, we're looking for what's the worst with regards to rebuild, reconstruction. We're looking at what we need to shim and top coat. We're looking at the sidewalks that need to be rebuilt. So we're working off that road evaluation program, which the town has never had in the past, to address the worst roads first and the least worst roads last. So we do have top coats and skim coats and sidewalks that will be done starting this summer, this spring, or summer after this budget is passed for July 1st. So I hope that answers your question, Marcia. That's the survey that we work off of to maintain and reconstruct the roads.
As a point of order, Article 8 will be closing here in a couple minutes. If you have not yet voted on Article 8, which is the ballot box over there, please do. Moving back to Article 18, is there anybody else who would like any information on this article? All right, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Article passes. Article 19, Safer Grant. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $511,700 for the 2026-2027 fiscal year for the purpose of funding 4 fire EMS positions within the Plymouth Fire and EMS Department. If approved, this expense will cover the first year costs associated with salaries, benefits, and expenses for these 4 positions. The 2026-2027 appropriation will be offset by the Safer Grant Award in the amount of $319,437. in the 2026-2027 fiscal year. The amount of $192,263 to be raised through general taxation for the year 26-27. Year 2, 27-28, budget estimation is $501,695,000 grant award, $319,437 with $182,258 being raised through taxation. Year 3, 2028-2029 budget estimation is $515,904. The grant award will be $149,070 with $366,834 being raised through taxation. The Select Board recommends this article. The estimated tax impact is 24 cents per thousand for the 26-27 year, 24 cents per thousand for the 27-28 year, and 45 cents per thousand for the 28-29 fiscal year. Would anybody like to debate this article?
John Dockery. So tell me, what happens in year 4? Do we lay them off?
Chief?
Wait for it to warm up. So, yeah, this grant is for 3 years. It is a gold standard to assist us with firefighter staffing. You know, as fire chief, I am tasked with just trying to meet the demand. I'm simply struggling to meet the demand. This is due to a decrease in the call company involvement, an increase in demand on emergency services, and this allows us to at least help us meet the demand. Presently, I'm only able to operate 1 ambulance emergency at a time. This grant, by allowing us to have the additional firefighter, allow us to operate 2 ambulances around the clock right now without calling in mutual aid consistently. That being said, year 4, this grant would roll into the normal operating budget. It would be up to the community to continue to support it. If that answers your question.
Kinda. Also, I'm curious, rather than come up again, leasing fire trucks versus buying fire trucks. It seems like they have a life of 5 years, operating life of 5 years. Is that true?
No, that's the lease. So fire trucks are $1 million, right? That's unfortunately it's sick as we say that, $1 million for a typical pumper. With that being said, instead of again causing the tax rate to skyrocket for that 1 year to raise an appropriate $1 million, we just kind of levied it for 5 years or whatever the lease of the loan is. And after that, we obtain it, we own it. It's a lease payment with ownership.
Oh, okay.
So it's not like we return it after 5 years. No.
Okay, so it's not like we have to order one once we put a lease in, because we're going to lose it in 5 years.
Correct.
All right, okay.
Lifespan of a truck? I'm sorry. Lifespan of a truck is, per NFPA, is 20 years.
William Bond. I had a question. Do you see any impacts of adding these, it's 4, right?
Correct.
4 fire EMS to our current station? Are we going to need to do anything in the next?
A little louder, please.
Is there any impact in our current situation with adding 4 more staff in terms of our current fire station? Is this going to require that we need additional facilities, or are the facilities large enough to handle this new staffing?
We'll do some operational changes around the station, you know, but we'll be able to absorb this. But long term, I mean, well, you folks have seen the facilities. That's the hope is long term it'll be replaced anyways, regardless of this position.
Yeah, and then I guess the other question I had was, because I know you've spoken about this before, like budget meetings and stuff like that. Do you have an estimate, as just so the town knows, as to how much more revenue we might generate by running a second ambulance, and how that may effectively, rough numbers is fine, how that may effectively offset these extra expenses? Because that's what we're proposing here, right, is we add these people on, we have better shifts, we have better coverage, we can run more ambulances, and we make money off our ambulances. So it'd be good to know if we just have a rough idea of like, hey, instead of us paying, in year 4, instead of us paying $511,000, we actually estimate that we'll earn an extra like $200,000 in, EMS or something like that.
It's a great question, Mr. Bond. Thank you. So inherently, the 4th position will allow us to increase our revenues. For example, last year alone, we were unable to answer over 60, I don't have the exact, it might be closer to 70 emergency responses in the town of Plymouth alone. we're unable to because we're already committed to other places. So inherently, that difference right there will increase revenue. And along that, also, they'll allow us other opportunities. We know we're going to get busier. So to give you a hard number, I can't say we're going to close the gap 100%, but we'll certainly close that gap within, I foresee we could easily inherently absorb, 200,000, if not more. It's hard to tell because it's all based off demand.
Well, I think if we look at the 60 calls that we weren't able to answer, times this year's rate of $1,337 per call, we're talking anywhere between $60,000 and $80,000 lost revenue with us not responding, and another community having to come in and backfill and taking that call and getting that revenue.
Yeah. So effectively, we're saying that instead of this year us spending potentially $182,000, we might actually only be impacting our budget by like $100,000 because $80,000 of that might be offset by the EMS.
Correct.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Hi, Katie Badalak. It seems like sometime in the summer was when Warren and Wentworth stopped their EMS service. I know that the town of Plymouth jumped in and helped out, and I think that was great. I'm just wondering, with that change, how does that, we're talking about adding more people, but how does the change with absorbing Warren and Wentworth affect your staffing?
It actually increases the demand on our staff and in our agency. Just for those that aren't aware, EMS is not a regulated law in the state of New Hampshire. It's a health act. So police and fire, for example, are required by law to exist in any community in the state. EMS is not. With that being said, how the state laws are written, when Warren and Wentworth collapsed, by default, it fell to us and their neighbors as we were the next closest agency. There's no ifs or buts about that. Now, it's tricky because we could be put in a position where we have to provide the service for free. In this case, we're able to get waivers and secure a contract for them to protect our community. That being said, yes, it's increased the demand, and it's strained. And this position will help us meet that demand and simply booster our personnel where we're lacking in any volunteers or callback capabilities as it is. Does that make sense? Does that answer it?
I think the other thing that is important is that these costs are built into the rate that we charge. So all of these costs that we're talking about with the additional monies that have to be raised. So this year we charge $1,337 per EMS call at a paramedic level. Next year, if the SAFER grant passes and everything else does with the fire department, the rate goes to $1,600, because why should Plymouth fund all of that when our apparatus is responding to 8 surrounding communities? They need to pay their fair share of this situation as well. So the rate will increase, and the contracted towns will pay their fair share as they do today.
Hopefully, they'll pay the increase.
Hi, Anna Hattendorf. I wanted to speak on, and also personally thank the fire chief and Plymouth Fire Department. A couple weeks ago, where I live, my family and I, in Tenny Mountain, they responded to a call in E Block where my neighbors were very close to dying for carbon monoxide poisoning. Their response saved their lives and also the rest of the block because of their quick response and evacuated the whole block. So without their fire trucks and ambulances and their quick work, it would have been a very different story. So thank you for all of your hard work. Secondly, with voting just recently and passing the Tenny Mountain overlay, that will potentially add more people, more housing. We therefore will need more personnel to make Plymouth safer. So it is something that we will need more fire, more police, and more infrastructure. So thank you.
I think the other thing that is really important, and we look at the SAFER grant, and we look at adding additional personnel, is it's not just adding additional personnel to handle the calls, it's adding additional personnel to keep retention within our own department. These guys and gals can only handle so much, and the call volume that they handle increases year over year. The complexity of the cases that they handle are much worse than what they've been in years past. So it's not only just to add another person to provide additional service, it's adding another person to create retention within our department and keep our firefighters healthy and safe to do their jobs as we expect them to do within our community.
Hi. Thanks, Scott. Hi, Charlie Barker. I just want to, there's a whole group of firemen back there. I just want to thank them instead of the chief, because he gets all the thanks and credit sometimes. So, hey, boys, thanks. We appreciate all the effort you do. This was handed out tonight, and I just want to make a point. I have a feeling that after 20 years of us asking for more help for the fire department, that maybe this year it might be successful, and I really hope it is. But I want to make sure people read the back of this and understand that when the guys go out on a call, if you don't have enough guys, it's dangerous. And like, they answer every single call, and they go out and they, you know, pick your grandmother up off the floor, and then the next minute they have to be out on the highway where people don't pull over, and they're helping somebody on the highway. And only having one or two guys and not four is, it's just not safe for them. And they have families that they have to come home to, that their kids have already missed Christmas, and they've missed birthdays and ball games because they're there at work 24 hours a day. So if you're not sure if you're going to vote for this, just remember it's only a cup of coffee, right? And it'll be a good thing. It'll help these guys out, and it's, you know, their careers are short. You can only do that job for, that's why it's only 20, well, I think they have to do 25 now. It's a short time because it's so intensive, and they're more likely to get cancer, mental health issues, all of that because of what they do for us, for everyone here in this room and all your family members. So please, if you're not sure about voting yes for this, please do. It's important. Thanks.
I'm Gisela Estes, and I just want to share an incident with you that I'm really, really appreciated. The fire department, before I was able to take my husband to a nursing home when he was failing, 4 nights in a row, he went to the bathroom and he collapsed before he could get to bed, and I couldn't pick him up. And I called 911, and somebody from the fire department came over and helped me, and I so appreciated it. Thank you.
Can we move the question?
Yeah, we're going to move to question. So in Article 19, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Article passes. I also have the results. Have the results for Article 8, which was the petition warrant article with the ballots. We had 254 votes cast. 67% of those votes voted in the negative. That's 171 votes in the negative. The motion does not pass. We had 83 votes in the positive. Article 20, capital projects. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $287,500 for the purpose of funding the following capital projects for fiscal year 26-27. Fire department boiler replacement, $18,000. Highway building installation repairs, $40,000. Pease Public Library exterior painting, $18,000. Landfill monitoring, $6,000. Police department closed circuit television system, $10,500. Town Hall closed circuit television system, $15,000. Library exterior renovations, $15,000. Town Hall HVAC systems updates, $165,000. Majority votes required. The Select Board recommends this article, and the tax impact is 47 cents per thousand. Any debate on this article?
John Dockery, once again. Tell me, I'm going to address this question to you, Scott. When do you think they're going to be actually able to move into the new building that we're building for the fire and police department?
3 to 4 years down the road.
3 or 4 years down the road. Because 2 items in here go for the fire station, the police station. I mean, is that a good use of the money, I guess, for the... I thought maybe it'd be 3 years, but probably more likely to be 4.
And my recommendation to the board of this $287,500, they're all one-time expenditures that are in the CIP. So to be funded under unassigned fund balance, so you wouldn't have the 47 cents per thousand increase if it was funded by the unassigned fund balance.
Would anybody else like to be recognized on this article? All right. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Article passes. Article 21, road
Patrice Scott, I'd just like to move restrict reconsideration of Articles 8 and 10. I believe they were left out, and we couldn't do 8 because of the vote.
Eight and 10.
Yeah.
So there's a, motion to restrict reconsideration on Articles 8 and 10 on the floor. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Article 21, road construction. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $612,500 for the purpose of repairs to Emerson Street and Parker Street. Majority of votes required. Select Board recommends this article, and the estimated tax impact is 75 cents per $1,000. There's a small typo here in the article, but I think the spirit of the article is clear. Any debate in this article?
Katie Hedberg, no debate, but I've been up here every year since I've lived here, asking for this to be done, and I just want to say thank you.
All right. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Article passes. Article 22, Riverside Cemetery fence replacement. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $36,000 for the replacement of Riverside Cemetery fencing and authorize the withdrawal of $8,300 from the Edwin J. Foster Estate Trust held by the Plymouth Trustee of Trust Funds given to the town in trust for that purpose. The balance of $27,700 is to come from general taxation. The Select Board recommends this article, and the estimated tax impact is 3 cents per $1,000. Any debate in this article? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Article passes. Article 23, fire engine purchase. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $317,500 for the final lease payment for the Pierce fire engine, and to authorize a withdrawal of $317,500 from the Fire Engine 3 Capital Replacement Reserve Fund established for that purpose. Select Board recommends this article. The tax impact of this warrant article is 0 cents per $1,000. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Article passes.
Mr. Moderator, can I make a motion to restrict reconsideration on Articles 18 through 23?
All those in favor to restrict reconsideration, Articles 18 through 23?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes. Thank you. Article 24, ambulance lease. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $103,000 for the $103,000 for the purchase of the second year's payment for an ambulance lease approved fiscal year 2025. This lease agreement contains an escape clause. The Select Board recommends this article, and the estimated tax impact for this warrant article is 13 cents per $1,000. Any debate in this article?
Chief, who's the escape clause for, us or them?
Us.
Good. Also, just to be clear on this, this is also, and I'm going to ask James about the Highway Department, Steve, all the way to 27, this is, we're leasing to eventually own, is that correct?
Correct, yes. So it's just
So
to keep
it
the payments
becomes
low year
ours.
after year, and we obtain it at the end of the lease.
Right, okay, thank you.
Any other debate in this article? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Article passes. Article 25, ambulance lease. To see if the town will vote to authorize the Select Board to enter into a 5-year lease agreement in the amount of $500,000 for the purpose of leasing an ambulance to raise and appropriate the sum of $103,000 for the first year's payment for that purpose. The lease agreement contains an escape clause. The Select Board recommends this article. The estimated tax impact is 13 cents per $1,000. Any debate in this article? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Article passes. Article 26, fire tanker lease. To see if the town will raise and appropriate the sum of $143,942 for the purpose of funding a lease payment for the Pierce MFG dry-side tandem axle fire tanker truck. That's a mouthful. As opposed to the 2025 as approved at the 2025 town meeting. This lease agreement contains an escape clause. The Select Board recommends this article, and the estimated tax impact for this warrant article is 18 cents per thousand. Any debate in this article? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Article passes. Article 27, highway dump truck lease. To see if the town will vote and raise an approximate $58,636 for the annual lease payment for the highway dump truck as approved in the 2025 town meeting. This lease agreement contains an escape clause. The Select Board recommends this article. The estimated tax impact for this warrant article is 7 cents per thousand. Any debate in this article? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Article passes. Article 28, parks mower. To see if the town will vote and raise and appropriate the sum of $8,400 for the purpose of purchasing a new mower for the Parks Department. The Select Board recommends this article. The estimated tax impact is 1 cent per $1,000 in valuation. Any debate in this article? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Article passes. Article 29, police cruiser. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $78,000 for the purpose of purchasing and outfitting a new police cruiser. The Select Board recommends this article. Estimated tax impact is 10 cents per $1,000 in property valuation. Any debate in this article? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Mr. Moderator, I'd like to make a motion. Oh, sorry, I got ahead of you. You didn't.
Article passes.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to restrict reconsideration of Articles 24 through 29.
All those in favor to restrict reconsideration of Articles 24 through 29? Aye. Any opposed? Passes. Article 30, highway dump truck purchase. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $326,314 for the purpose of purchasing and outfitting a new highway dump truck. This purchase to be offset with a grant approved from New Hampshire Volkswagen Environmental Mitigation Grant in the amount of $251,314. The balance of $75,000 to be raised through taxation. The Select Board recommends this article. The estimated tax impact is 9 cents per $1,000.
Lad, if I may. I would like to compliment the Highway Department, including their administrative staff. They took the time and filled out the grant application with the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services. As you see, this truck was $326,000. We were awarded a grant for $251,314 by the Executive Council in the state of New Hampshire. So very proud. very proud of the work that they did in getting this grant, submitting the grant, and receiving the grant. The other piece to that, and I know folks are concerned with the cost of taxes and the expenses, is that the department heads will be going through a grant strategic management training, and we will be learning how to better utilize our resources for grant information, and looking at grant information from a master plan perspective and from a strategic management perspective and from the capital improvement program. So not searching for everything out there. Let's be focused, let's be detailed, and let's go after the things that we've already acknowledged need to be in the capital improvement program as well as in our strategic goals. So we will be working harder through the next year on that effort, and their training will take place next week, and evaluations will start in July with each department head. So we are trying our best and working our hardest to get the grant money that we possibly can get.
Any debate in this article? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Article passes. Article 31, police tasers equipment lease. To see if the town will vote and raise and appropriate the sum of $11,237 for the purpose of funding a payment for the lease purchase agreement for 16 tasers that's approved in the 2024 town meeting for the police department. This lease contains a non-appropriation clause. The select board recommends this article, and the estimated tax impact for this warrant article is 2 cents per $1,000. Any debate? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Article passes. Article 32, facilities manager vehicle purchase. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $55,000 for the purpose of purchasing a vehicle for the town facilities manager. The select board recommends this article. The estimated tax impact is 7 cents per $1,000. Any debate? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Article passes. Article 33, cemetery mower. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $7,500 for the purchasing a mower for the cemetery. The select board recommends this article. The estimated tax impact on this article is 1 cent per $1,000 in valuation. Any debate in this article? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Article passes. Article 34, nonprofit and health agencies. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $62,000 for the purpose of funding the following nonprofit health agencies from 2026-2027 fiscal year. Pemmy Baker Home Health and Hospice, $20,000. Genesis Lakes Region Mental Health Agency, $6,000. Transport Central, $2,500. Grafton County Senior Citizens, $12,000. Tri-County Community Action, $6,500. Voices Against Violence, $2,500. Pemmy Youth Center, $6,500. Communities for Alcohol and Drug-Free Youth, $6,000. The Select Board recommends this article. The estimated net tax impact for this warrant article is 8 cents per $1,000.
I hate to come up and start this, but here we go. I'm just going to, Annie Schneider, this is the thing. We support all of these non-taxed properties in this town. It's a huge contention around here. We do know we also benefit from them. There's great things to say about them. But it is now an industry and a business. It is no longer bake sales, volunteers, car washes. It's a different world now, even than 10 years ago. So this is my problem with this line item. And if you want to think I'm not generous, I don't care. Think whatever you want. Someone's barn burns down, I'm going to send them money in their GoFundMe. I'm going to send money in different things. I donate to all kinds of things by my choice, things that I want to donate to. So that's important to me. What I don't want to do is donate through a line item in my taxes in this town, because we're supporting these businesses already. You can major in college in fundraising and in not-for-profit businesses. This is a business now, and I would appreciate it if these nonprofit places, non-taxed places, actually faced fundraising at the level that they should now. There is all kinds of things available for them. What Scott was talking about, like looking for grants and stuff, I really applaud the people here trying to do that on behalf of this town. But this line item does bother me. We support them already by taking care of their property taxes. I do appreciate that the Budget Committee has chosen which businesses to put on this list. I do appreciate that. But anyway, I just want to point that out, that this is not a bake sale and a car wash. This is a business, and one of their jobs is to fundraise.
She's the red menace. Yeah. So I wrote on my hand, free clinic. I'm sorry, Kathy Bentwood, Highland Street, my favorite street. The free clinic, the last time that I knew of a true nonprofit in Plymouth was a free clinic. Doctors and nurses, we volunteer there every Tuesday. We volunteered. This was free for 18 years. That doesn't exist anymore. This has all changed. So I don't want to see nonprofit in the future. We have to change this. These are non-tax paying entities. I have no problem with some of these nonprofits that you call them, their directors making in the six figures. I want to see them pay their property taxes, just like everybody else. Pay your damn property taxes. Instrumental is a resource base in this state. There are 1,850 grants and foundations in New Hampshire giving more than $39 billion. We have to start looking. This is low-hanging fruit. Why wouldn't people come to Plymouth and take advantage of your generosity? Because these all tug at our heartstrings. So I just, I would love to see the language changed, and the whole thing has to change.
John Randlett. I have a question on Grafton County Senior Center. If I remember correctly, when I was on the select board, we were contributing about $12,000 then. And I know I would like to, do we still have the committee that they submit this to? Have they submitted a request for any increases? I mean, I think this was, what we were doing back in 18, 19, and 20. And I know
Yes.
things have gone up, and they're servicing a lot more seniors in our community.
In general, the nonprofit, and either Mike or Mark could speak to it, they're here, but generally we've tried to keep the nonprofit funding as flat as possible. There's maybe a couple instances where we went up a little bit, but generally over the past 6-7 years, we've really been flat to declining in what we've offered.
But we look at, there's a lot of people out there that come down there for their meals and the Meals on Wheels. And over 6 or 7 years, they've had no increases, and it was.
John, they requested 17,000, and we, the nonprofit subcommittee recommended 12.
Well, I would like to change the senior center's amendment to this to raise the senior centers to 14,000 instead of 12.
All right, we have amendment on the floor to raise the line item Grafton County Senior Citizens from 12,000 to 14,000. There's a second. So we'll vote on the amendment. The amendment is to increase that single line item from $12,000 to $14,000. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The nays have it. The amendment fails.
Good evening. It's a long one. My watch has already gone to sleep. My name is Sarah Terrell. I have two comments. One, like another person said earlier this evening, I am a busy mom. I do a lot of things all the time. This is my second evening out this week, not feeding my family. Anyway, I appreciate that you are taking away some of that thought effort for me in donating to our local resources for our town for a fairly significant population that desperately needs our help. So thank you for taking the time and thought and effort and going through that so that I don't have to. I also donate on my own, but I like that you are doing that for me. So I appreciate that. Thank you. And then second, I would just like to remind everybody that as we are struggling to control our budget, our state is also cutting money left and right all over the place, and our federal government is also cutting money left, right, and all over the place. And so all of these nonprofits who have grants and are doing fundraising are losing money at a pretty significant rate and having to cut their own services because they're losing money elsewhere. And so I appreciate that we are continuing to support them at a very minimal amount. So while everybody else is saying don't spend money on nonprofits, I'm saying thank you for spending money on nonprofits because nobody else is.
Hi, Viking Hedberg, Emerson Street, and again, thank you for fixing the street. Just a perspective, I'm a pediatrician. I'm no longer in town, but I left 7 years ago. But at that time, the master's level clinicians whose families I took care of were both on Medicaid and receiving WIC. So these agencies are not running on generous money, and I echo what Sarah said, is the money coming from the state and from the feds is getting tighter and tighter. So it's challenging to keep these agencies afloat, and I appreciate the effort. I also appreciate the effort of the committee to make that effort to figure out where targeting that is in the best interest of our community. Thank you.
Hi, Claire McCann. I am of the opinion that this particular amendment is separate from the issue of taxing nonprofits. Looking at these numbers and from the limited information that I have about budgeting for different organizations, these are actually pretty small amounts of an overall operating budget. And I feel like for these, the fact that this goes through review of a committee through application process is different than just handing out money willy-nilly. I also feel like these specific nonprofits listed are of benefit to the whole community and are really necessary services. And it's a small amount in the greater scheme of their overall budgets. And I think that should be a separate issue from the desire to tax nonprofits. Thank you.
Any other debate on this article? All those in favor of Article 34 as written?
Aye.
Any opposed? Article passes.
I'd like to make a motion to limit reconsideration of Articles 30 through 34.
All those in favor to limit reconsideration of Articles 30 through 34?
Aye.
Any opposed? Article passes. Article 35, Town Hall Energy Audit Work. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $75,000 for the purpose of completing work found following an energy audit for the Plymouth Town Hall, to further accept a grant in the amount of $47,376 from NH Saves Energy Efficient Program administered by the New Hampshire Electric Cooperative to offset this expense. The balance of $27,624 to be raised through general taxation. The Select Board recommends this article. The estimated tax impact is 3 cents per thousand. Any debate in this article?
Thanks for hanging out here so late, everybody. Real quickly, Irene Grace Garvey, Texas Hill Road. I'm on the Energy Commission, and one of the things that we did in 2024 was we sent out a survey to our town voters to see what they would like to see us put our energy into moving forward from 2024. And one of the things that really became clear through that survey was that they wanted, that folks who responded to the survey wanted us to look at the town buildings to see how we could make them more energy efficient. Immediately, the town hall came to the forefront of our conversation at the Plymouth Energy Commission. So we moved forward with Jesse and Scott and a couple different, actually the New Hampshire Cooperative did an audit of the town hall, and so that's where the work was identified for the building, was through this audit process. I think we figured out through our crunching of numbers, and Scott's going to correct me if I'm wrong, and that we will be able to pay back this line item within less than 6 years through energy savings. So I just wanted to give you a little background about that. Thank you.
Any other debate on this article? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Article passes. Article 36, capital reserve deposits. To see if the town will vote to add to the existing capital reserve funds under the provision of RSA 35:1 for the following purpose and raise and appropriate the respective sum totaling $125,000 to be placed in said funds. Conservation Commission CR Fund, $5,000. Dispatch Equipment CR Fund, $25,000. Fire Department Tower Ladder Truck CR Fund, $75,000. Pemmy Baker TV Equipment CR Fund, $10,000. Cannon Capital Reserve, $10,000. A majority votes required. Select Board recommends this article, and the estimated tax impact is 14 cents per thousand. Any debate in this article? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Article passes. Master Plan Land Use, Article 37, Master Plan Land Use Regulation Update Capital Reserve Fund. See if the town will vote to establish Master Plan Land Use Regulation Update Capital Reserve Fund under the provisions of RSA 35:1 for the purpose of updating the town's master plan, land use regulations, and to raise and appropriate the fund of $10,000 to be placed in this fund. Further, to name the Select Board as agents to expend said fund. The Select Board recommends this article. The estimated tax impact for this warrant article is 1 cent per thousand. Any debate in this article? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Article passes. Article 38, petition warrant article, pilot program. To see if the town will vote to authorize the Select Board to implement a payment in lieu of taxes pilot program applicable to the qualifying non-governmental tax-exempt entities at a tiered rate not to exceed 2% of assessed value, excluding town, state, federal, county, school district, and water sewer properties, with revenues dedicated to, but not limited to, tax stabilization, municipal infrastructure, and rural land protection purposes.
Scott, could you explain that a little bit more, about how that money is going to be? Want to take it? Want me to?
We'll share.
Fine.
Ideally, the petitioner should get an opportunity to speak to it first, if they're here. Okay, so our understanding from legal counsel is that at best, this is kind of more like a sense of the meeting. We don't have any legal capacity to force a tax-exempt entity to pay taxes. We can negotiate a pilot agreement with them, and this is an indication from the town around the expectations to a nonprofit around what the town's kind of hoping that they will do. So it does maybe give us a little bit of a negotiating place and a little bit of a conversation starter. But in terms of, does this have any teeth? Are we actually going to be able to start collecting 2% from some of these, agencies that folks have talked about? That doesn't happen tomorrow. That's not an immediate effect of this passing, unfortunately.
So we can send them a bill, but they might not pay.
We can't send them a bill necessarily, but we can open up a conversation, and Scott will speak to this in a moment, but we have an active conversation happening, I think, with every nonprofit currently in town, and those pilot agreements vary wildly in terms of what they're willing to do with us.
In RSA 72:23, which talks about pilot agreements and clearly states they're non-binding agreements, is that it's voluntary payments, and a municipality cannot force an exempt entity into a pilot agreement. So I can say over the last 3 years, I've worked diligently to negotiate and enter into settlement agreements with nonprofits in lieu of payment of taxes, And we have been successful, and I think the board will continue and provide direction to the new town manager to continue this effort in meeting with these nonprofits and trying to get them to enter into a pilot agreement.
Molly McCann, so is this particular warrant article redundant to the actions already being taken by the select board and the town?
I would say that this warrant article has no direct effect, but if passed, is maybe useful in terms of indicating the desire of the community to nonprofits. Not that I believe that any of them actually doubt the feelings of
Okay.
the general community.
Thank you.
Kathy Bentwood. Question regarding the nonprofit I know best, which is the Bridge House. The Bridge House rented a space called Step Ladders. Steve Kelly's the owner. He pays the property taxes. The manager of the Bridge of Step Ladders tried to get me to convince the board to buy it. I refused because of my stand on the non-tax paying businesses not paying their full amount of property taxes. So if, hypothetically, the Bridge House decided they wanted to buy Step Ladders, then hypothetically, they don't have to pay any taxes. Steve Kelly's off the hook. He doesn't have to pay. Do they have to come to the town for permission to buy that, or can they just buy it outright?
We have no ability to stop someone from buying a piece of real estate.
Okay. Even if it lowers your tax, your property tax? Okay.
Correct.
John Randlett. When I was on the planning board and the select board, Mid-State came to us when the concept was being handled. They were paying money, I think $85,000 in lieu of taxes. And then at that time we adopted the road. I think we spend probably $25,000 to $30,000 a year maintaining that road. And then they went nonprofit. Now, will this stop that? I mean, they weren't paying property taxes. They were paying a fee in lieu of taxes. So by being declared a nonprofit, how did they get out of paying that?
So Boulder Point is a town road, so we are responsible for maintaining that.
Yep.
I will tell you that within the last month, we have been able to negotiate a pilot agreement with Mid-State Health for a period of 5 years. So they now are paying a pilot agreement to the town every year for the next 5 years.
Okay, but not, thank you. But the other question is they took over community bank building. Now that is, again, off the tax roll, correct?
That's part of that settlement agreement that we just negotiated with Mid-State in totality of all of their properties.
What were we getting from community bank as far as taxes, and you don't know?
I don't have that information with me, John, but I certainly can get that for you.
Yeah, well, I'm just wondering whether this is going to help. Again, like you say, I mean, they can say we're going to pay this in lieu of taxes, and like I say, we accepted the road for the last 10 years. We've been paying $30,000 a year to keep that road up, and I know there's been other businesses added there, but still, I mean, we have no way. They start out in one way, and then taxpayers fund all this, and it turns around to bite us. So,
You know, and
will this affect that in any way, or okay?
No.
So-
I think, as in the conversations that I've had with Mid-State, and they've been very long and lengthy in many days, and working through a settlement agreement with them, I think they have come to us as a community partner and willing to pay a share of a payment in lieu of taxes to the town for the next 5 years.
If I may, I want to turn it back to the petition warrant article, which is to authorize the select board to engage in a pilot program.
Okay.
So that's the article on the table is
Well,
as
I just-
petitioned,
I
do we
just
want to
had a-
authorize these individuals to have,
I had
have the ability to
I
apply?
had the question to see, because of what has happened in the past, if this would impact it or not impact it, what effect it would be. Thank you.
Anna Hattendorf. In regards to the pilot program and the I'll speak loud. I think I can speak really loud. In regards to the nonprofits, is it possible to create an overlay or a zoning where nonprofits would be limited so that all of an area would not be allowed for nonprofits?
I think that's a question for legal counsel, but I don't believe so.
Okay, so therefore limiting how many nonprofits can grow.
I don't think you can do that with restricting the sale of property.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Karen McLeod. I have a question with regard to the pilot program and nonprofits. Does it include the religious sector of our town? Does that mean our churches will be
It does include religious sanctions as well as schools and other nonprofits.
That, yeah, I have a problem with that, you know, as a taxpayer in this town, and just being respectful of a lot of the different churches in our town. I know we have an awful lot, but I just think in terms of my mother-in-law across the street, a Methodist church would really, I think, be grossly affected by something like this.
I can tell you that I have not approached any religious sanctions in the town of Plymouth to enter into a pilot agreement.
So then it's kind of subjective of who you might approach.
It is.
Yeah, I have a problem with that. Thank you.
There's a
One
seconded
person.
move to question, so
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Just want to put it on the record and on videotape that according to reading this, it looks like Plymouth State University, other than what they did for the police department, hasn't been a part of this agreement this year. Is that true?
Plymouth State University has a pilot agreement with us.
It
With a
does.
life safety services agreement.
Right.
So they pay $275,000 a year, and $75,000 that we put into capital reserve for the fire department tower truck is funded by Plymouth State University.
Okay, thank you.
all right. We're going to vote. So this is the petition warrant article. If you're voting in the affirmative, you're voting to authorize the select board to implement a pilot program, which they're already doing. If you vote in the negative, you are not passing the article, and the select board will continue to engage in pilot programs, which they are already doing. So it's a good last one, I guess. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? It passes. Why not? All right. All right. Article 39, it's the last one of the night, Swan Song. Is there any other business that needs to be addressed at this town meeting? There's a move to adjourn. All those in favor? Aye. Go home. Thank you for my first meeting.
You don't get the opportunity